The following program deals with a controversial
subject.
The theories expressed are not the only possible interpretation.
The viewer is invited to make a judgment based on all available information.
the top talents in the comic book business are here to tell everything they know.
Hey, gang.
Hey,
Thanks for
what's
having
going on?
me. When does the person that you respect greatly show up?
Yeah, I know. It's kind of
Right
funny.
after we get rid of your has-been.
Right.
There we go. There we go.
It's kind of funny the placement that you have, because when you came in, your head is blocking the M. So it said B-O-O. So it's like, boo.
Appropriate.
Yeah.
Appropriate.
So I gotta say, Ross, let me start. What month was it you announced that you were selling Boom?
So it's July of last year.
July of
2024. Yep.
So it was right. I think it was right before San Diego.
Yes.
Yeah, it was right before San Diego because your last year San Diego is the first time I've never accidentally spotted you at San Diego. You lucked out.
Ninja smoke bomb.
But one of the observations that Jesse and I told Bryan prior to your announcement was it was like the entire industry was playing a game of musical chairs and weren't telling anybody that they knew the music was gonna stop. And the second you made your announcement, I'm on the phone to Jesse, and Jesse's like, "Oh, I'm talking to Bryan. Here, I'll cook you in." And I'm like, "Remember I told you about the musical chairs? Ross found his chair. And the music hasn't stopped yet."
Ross went to the pool.
Yeah.
Yes. Ross went to the pool. He left.
But do you see what I like? Obviously, you weren't gonna bring that up then. But how much?
Well, okay. So there's a couple different things here. And so on the outside, a lot of times you can amalgamate and get these things tangled up. And you're right. Yes. So broadly, yes. But let's go the next level of detail down, which is when you are such an insider and you know the people at Dark Horse, you know the people at Image, and you know everybody personally. And the thing I would point out to you is, like, all the folks on this call are like 2005 forward in comics, not 1995 forward, not 1985 forward. Okay. And so that if you go back and look at that time period, there was great stability. So like I'll talk about Philip Sablick leaving Boom. Philip worked at Boom for 10 years, right? People don't work at companies for 10 years.
No.
Like, especially in comics, they hop around every 2 to 3. But if you go back and you look at Dirk Wood and you look at like this crew of dudes, right? There's this longevity. So when things start to kick in, so like the first strain I would point out, which is like a number of people started to change their positions, but that was also because we had been through this period where they had been at their post much longer than it was typical.
Than anybody.
So you know, Dennis, you know that if I slice out, and Jesse, you know this, if I sliced out 95 to 2005 and you looked at staff, it'd be a disaster. Like, the only consistency you'd have is Bob Wayne, right?
Yeah.
Everything else would have been bananas.
Bob Wayne,
right?
Yeah. Bob Wayne.
Yeah. Bob Wayne was like the only guy that stayed in his position. I mean, Marvel had huge changeover, Dark Horse, all of it. It was nuts.
Yeah.
So number one of the things that was happening was people, like, I hired a CFO who came in and she looked at our employees because she was kind of doing the HR CFO thing. And she absolutely could not believe at the retention. Like she called me into her office and sat me down and was like, I worked for McKinsey. Explain to me. She's like, I have an MBA and I do not understand how you hold on to your employees. Right. So there's a lot of folks during this time period that stuck where they were. Okay. And it was very unusual. Now, the other element is, you know, obviously when the fragmentation begins and DC leaves for Lunar, the first thing I thought is that Marvel always has a whatever DC's doing, we are going to beat them at it. Okay, so if your audience is unaware of that, I am not speculating. Okay.
Well, okay, hold on.
I know this, and I worked at Malibu when they got bought by Marvel in the 90s. I started Boom in 2005. Like, I have friends still there, and they launch things like there's no accident that there's absolute and ultimate or two different sort of sidelines that reinvent the characters are happening at the same time. There's always if they do this, we'll do that. Tastes great, less filling, whatever you want to say. So as soon as DC leaves Diamond for Lunar, then I'm like, oh, it's just a matter of time until Marvel leaves. Yeah. Like that's not will Marvel leave? That is, Marvel is leaving.
Well, okay.
Well, is it time or is it common sense?
Okay, but that's in the deal making. Okay, so now as you start to dig into this, so let's go back into 1996. So for those that don't know, there were 18 distributors. Marvel bought Heroes World, which is the number 3 distributor. They took 45% of the market, which is what Marvel controlled at the time. They put it through Heroes World, which had 8% of the market. And they broke Heroes World, and Heroes World could not ship Marvel product. Meanwhile, DC, who did not want to be in the distribution game and did not want to buy a distributor, and much of that is because they were a division of Warner Brothers that was a giant corporation that if Warner Brothers gets into the business of something, they have a tendency to really like, do you want these guys from these other divisions to come in and tell you how to do comic book?
One part of that story and just say, at this time in 96, Marvel had just come out of bankruptcy and was owned by Ike and his...
No. This is what leads up to it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But where was Marvel at? Because they were wholly owned then, correct?
I think they were publicly traded.
Okay. They had stock at that time.
I believe so. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I was just trying to get, you're talking about Warner Brothers, but I'm also like Marvel. It's its own thing. It's not owned by anybody else.
Oh, okay. So here's the proper context for Marvel. So Terry Stewart is the CEO at this time. Terry came from Candy. Now, when you go into a grocery store and, let's talk about, you're looking at Hershey's bar, right? If you're Hershey's and you sell enough Hershey's bars, at a certain point, you go, the grocery stores know our product. Why are we distributing through a third party? Let's just distribute our own product to the grocery stores, and we'll keep the cut that the distributor's making. Okay. Now, what that requires is you have to build warehouses, you have to have a sales force, you have to have trucks or get on somebody else's trucks. It's a pain in the ass. Okay. But with Hershey's, it got to a certain point where that was worth it, right? And we all know Hershey's doesn't just make Hershey's. They make a bunch of they make the Crunch Bar and they make all this other stuff. And they had enough products to justify. And so when you go into a grocery store, Nabisco, all of these companies, Campbell's, they distribute themselves. Okay. So the first thing that Terry Stewart does is when he walks in the door, he goes, what? You're Marvel Comics. You're 45% of the market and you don't distribute yourself? DC's 25%. You're 45%. You're not distributing yourself? Let's go buy a small distributor, right? And Heroes World was of the size. Also, the story was it was family owned and it was nearby. It was in New Jersey and they were in New York, right? And I'm sure there's a bunch of other reasons I don't know that I wasn't privy to. So they buy Heroes World.
What was the deal though? See, I'm trying to piece this together, but my comic history isn't enough. There was some deal where in the late 60s, early 70s, Marvel Comics could not publish more than so many titles because...
Okay, that's totally different.
I know, but I want to roll it back to that because I think
I'll go back. You ready?
I think that mentality was in Marvel's head when they bought Heroes World. Do you understand what I'm
No.
saying?
Yeah, I disagree with you that the mentality was there. I do know what you're saying.
Okay, can
so
you
let's
explain
so
what that
let's talk
was?
about that. Sure, absolutely. So 1950s, or early to mid 1950s, there is a million comic books being published. There's a million comic book publishers. Okay, one of the things that's happening is that comic books are selling less. One of the things that this is blamed on is television. Okay, kids don't want to read as much because they can watch cartoons on TV, or just name that tune or any other TV show. So comic sales are going down. Then we have the pre-code horror comics that happen, and that does the juvenile delinquency. You have Frederick Wortham publishes a book called Seduction of the Innocent. And that blames, like one of the things that's in that book is that Batman and Robin are a gay couple, and every time your kid is reading Batman, it's corrupting him. So it isn't just the horror comics, right? The crime comics were very bad too. There was lots of gunplay and violence in the crime comics. So arguably, some historians argue that it was the crime comics that did it, not the horror comics. So Senate hearings are televised. This is back when there were 3 channels. They're televised. Everyone watches them. Okay. And the comic book publishers come off terrible. And basically, there's a formation. They decide to create a code that's like a good housekeeping seal of approval. That's even an old reference. It's basically a code for parents to know that that comic book is safe for their kid to buy. And so the publishers band together. It's Archie, it's Marvel, it's DC. They band together to make this code. And there's a massive collapse in publishers. And what happens is that Marvel's distributor gets out of the comic book business. And so Marvel at this juncture is not Marvel, they're Atlas. And the Game of Musical Chairs stops, and there's no chair for Marvel. Now, DC had a sister company that distributed them that was wholly owned by the same people that owned DC. But it was not actually DC distributing itself. And there was a recognition that Martin Goodman, who is the publisher of Marvel, had been commercially successful and was one of the people going forward that would continue to be able to provide commercial product, because they were looking at a lot of the other publishers and they felt like they didn't have the staying power or didn't have the capacity. And so Martin's professionalism was recognized, and the DC sister company, they cut a deal. And my understanding is that it was 8 issues a month could be published by Marvel. And so basically it looks like this. The DC sister distributor was, we are going to make money off of Atlas, but we are going to cap them so they will not be in a place where they will be able to grow to exceed the 8 titles. And we're going to keep them in a box so they're not really a competitor to DC. And so that is like 57. And then by 61, you have the first issue of Fantastic Four. And by 63, you've got the full-blown Marvel Universe going. And what happens is that contract changes in 1968. And that's why you have 68 is when Submariner. So Tales to Astonish is split into a Submariner comic and Submariner #1 and Incredible Hulk 100. Which continues the Astonished public numbering, and Tales of Suspense splits into an Iron Man #1 and a Captain America 100. And so that you basically have the titles creep up. And then by the early 70s, when Roy is editor-in-chief and leading everything, they're just pumping out a ton of books. And 72 is when I think it takes them until 72 to beat DC. Yeah. Now there's a real sub-story in there where basically they move, I think it's like Avengers 93 that moves to a double-sized where it's like 25 cents instead of 12. And DC, basically Marvel and DC kind of had a handshake that they were both going to go up to 25 cents because of inflation. And what happens is Marvel knowingly screws DC, and they go up to 25 cents for 1 month. DC stays there, and then Marvel goes down to 15 cents. And that's what juices them past DC, and they never look back.
Wow.
But again, that's the rivalry.
I honestly think we have to go back to that point before we can start going forward, because there is a history where this rivalry and the picking publishers and picking All of these things are very important to where we are even today, in my opinion.
Well, see, what's interesting is knowing Stan. I think Marvel's always had an enormous ego, and I don't say that in a negative way. I think Marvel has always regarded themselves as superior, at least once the Marvel Universe was formed. I think the 1950s under Atlas, they were just making product. But I think when the Marvel Universe happened, I think Stan did many things he doesn't get credit for. One of them is he increased the age of comic book readership. And so I think Stan just knew what the market could be, and he made product targeted to where the market should go. And he single-handedly created that opportunity in that sector, in that space. And I just think they never look back. Like when I would visit Marvel in the 90s, Marvel's attitude about DC was like, they're not even competition. Like we're killing these guys. Like they're eating our dust.
Marvel leaned into the personality of the creators before DC ever did.
Yes.
And they created that fan base based on that before
100%.
Marvel or before DC ever realized that was a strategy.
Oh, DC looked at that as a waste of time and a distraction.
Yeah.
DC looked down at their readership in the 60s. It wasn't until the new generation came in with Len and Marv at DC that they started to take it seriously. It was people like Joe Orlando and Julie Schwartz that started to. Schwartz was a little late to the party.
Yeah. But, okay, so now jump forward to Heroes World.
Okay. So here's Marvel. Here comes Terry Stewart. He says we should be distributing ourselves. And during this time, they also buy a trading card company. Because remember, this is kind of a grocery store, newsstand, trading cards, and they buy Malibu. And part of the idea with Malibu is they're going to have this distributor that's going to put all this product through its warehouses. We need more product. And
what was the card company?
Impel?
No, Impel was Skybox.
I think it might have been Skybox. I'd have to go back and look.
Yeah.
But because see the Marvel trading cards were incredibly lucrative.
Yeah, 1990
they were selling
was
a ton
Impel.
of books. Yeah.
The only thing before that was Comic Images, and I was wondering if it was Comic Images or not.
No, it was not Comic Images. That was kind of a mom and pop. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, so they started Impel then.
They acquired Fleer. No.
Fleer
in 92. Remember? Because they made all those
huge.
Fleer Ultra cards and stuff like that.
And they made that side by side with Impel that got bought by Skybox.
There you go.
See, now you're out of my domain. So.
Okay, sorry. No, we had to hit that because Brian and I are total card geeks too.
Yeah. So basically, Heroes World is bought. They try to put 50% of the market through an 8% pipe. It breaks. I still remember the 2 weeks that stores didn't have Marvel comics. Marvel was not happy. The retailers were not happy. There was actual concern that stores were going to go out of business. And meanwhile, DC never was interested in buying its own distribution. Levitz knew that was a path to doom because they didn't want the headache of running a distribution company. And so there's two. So Heroes World is number 3. The first distributor is Diamond. The second distributor is Capital. Does everybody know who Capital is?
Yeah.
So Capital was out of Wisconsin.
Might not, but if you want to give a little 5-second preview on Capital.
Roughly it's like Diamond is 40% of the market and Capital is like 25%. And Capital was based in the Midwest in Wisconsin. And they were vocal antagonists of Marvel and DC. They were big boosters of independent comic book publishing. And so
Capital made it big during the black and white boom.
Yes.
Of
Yeah, but they were in process before then. They remember around they published the first issues of Nexus.
Yeah.
And that's before the black and white boom. That's before the Turtles. So they're in action around 81, 82. Okay. I think came out of the underground scene of the 70s in the Midwest. This is your neck of the woods, Dennis. You should know this.
Yeah, no, I know. Capital was the king around here.
Yeah. So what happens then is, okay, so let's be businessmen here for a second. So there's Diamond and there's Capital. It's clear you're DC Comics. What is your attitude?
Go to the top.
Who wants my business?
Right.
Exactly. Compete.
Make me an offer. Right? Now, what the approach that Diamond has, with Steve Jeppy is a friend, and God bless, I'm sorry he's going through this. Excellent dude, always been great to me. Very grateful for Steve's friendship.
There's not one person on this panel that doesn't like Steve Jeppy.
Yep. Yeah, just in case he's watching it, or a friend is, or Josh is, or whoever. I adore those folks. But I think Steve's move here is a master stroke. Okay. What Steve does is Steve goes, I'm going to go get I'm going to get DC. Okay. And I could build a company off of the back of DC. Right. So everybody's got to order Batman. And literally the sales charts are calculated as a percentage of Batman because of the 1989 Tim Burton movie. So it doesn't matter what I pay to get DC. Now, rewind the tape. I said pay. Right. So this is not a deal that has Diamond making a lot of money off DC. Okay. Because DC sits back on its heels and says, who's going to make me an offer? And Diamond knows they're competing with Capital, and Capital knows they're competing with Diamond. And the truth of the matter is there were 18 distributors. So they probably were thinking they were competing with some other people as well. So Steve wins, and Steve doesn't win because he is charging the most. Steve wins because he's bending the most. And what Steve knows is that if I get DC, if Dark Horse, so like Kitchen Sink, Dennis Kitchen is a friend of mine. I adore him. And Dennis had longstanding ties with Capital because Dennis is from the Midwest in that area. And so he goes to Capital. And what happens is Capital ends up with no publishers to distribute. And then at a certain point, why are you ordering anything from Capital? Because you can get everything at Diamond. So Diamond scoops up Image, Diamond scoops up Dark Horse, and they sign exclusives.
Now, there was something, and I'm not saying shady or anything, but there was something big about the way Steve got Image, though, that I've heard the story and I've forgotten it over time.
I don't know that story. I couldn't tell you.
Okay,
and
I'll
I've
have
never
to find
heard
that out. But there was something
Yeah.
like, oh my God, he offered Image this, and that was something they couldn't refuse. So, you know, he literally like flew out there or flew them all to him or something. I'll have to get that from one of the Image boys.
Steve's a great businessman. So
yeah,
he understands what time it is. He's not going to posture. He's going to go get the deal done. And so at that juncture, then Capital goes out of business because they have nothing to distribute. Heroes World breaks. And so Marvel needs to distribute comics. And so Marvel goes to Diamond. Now, Marvel is Marvel. And so they're going to walk in, and if you're not familiar with the term most favored nations, it's the idea of, I want a deal that is at least as good as the best deal. So I don't know this. I know nothing Jon Snow, but what I do know is there's no way Marvel had a worse deal than DC.
Right. However, and I had heard this, and I can't tell you who I heard from, but we all know who it is. DC had a clause in their contract with
I can
Diamond
verify that. Yeah.
That said, worst case scenario, if something goes south, we own Diamond or something like that.
No, it isn't they own Diamond. It's that if there's a change of ownership, that basically Warner's would have an opportunity to buy Diamond.
So, okay. So, but that clause was always in the DC Diamond deal.
But let's stop. Time out.
Yeah.
Okay. You're Warner Brothers. Okay. So DC's not approving this contract. DC's approving the contract, but DC has got to send it up the food chain, and there's going to be a Warner Brothers attorney somewhere that's going to have to approve this contract. Now, you're a Warner Brothers attorney. you're sitting there looking at this contract, and what you're saying is, we own Batman. What if Diamond secures an exclusive deal with DC Comics, signs the paper on Friday, and on Monday sells Diamond to somebody else? Because suddenly they're the exclusive distributor of Batman. Right. What if Jeppy flips Diamond on the power of Batman? Okay. And that is something to worry about. That is a completely legitimate, if you're an attorney. So you want a clause in the contract that says, if there's a change of ownership,
but Marvel can never have that deal over at Diamond, no matter how hard they try.
That's right. This is a leverage thing, right? Because DC came in first, right?
Yes.
And so invariably what's happening is Jeppy's saying, I want DC, I want DC, I want DC. And through the contract negotiation, and I'm projecting, I don't know this, but through it, they're coming back and they're going, you got to give us, you got to give us all these things. And we need this right. So if you get bought, right, you got to come to us first. We need to be dialed in on what's going on. And it's just to prevent a pump and dump flip, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And Marvel doesn't care about that, right? So Marvel's coming in.
But they were aware of it through, obviously, the whole 90s up through 2020 or 2020.
Let me ask
it was one of the worst kept secrets on the other side of the publisher.
Absolutely.
Codes.
Let me ask something, because that brings us pretty close to current times. And I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. When do you guys think, because at that point, Diamond was king of the hill. Nobody was complaining about them at the time. When did people start, when do you think that Diamond started getting this kind of, people complaining about them from that period? Is that a recent thing within the last 10 years?
2000, well, it was after the collapse. Right, it would have been like 97, 98. You start,
Yeah, I think so.
I'm going to say day 2.
Yeah. I mean,
it's Monopoly.
Yeah.
Right. Like the second day that you've made a Monopoly, people are like, "Did we just do a Monopoly?"
Yeah, it's kind of where the social world became relevant to where, like Ross says, behind doors, now everything is publicly. Everybody's talking about it. In the late 90s, early 2000s, you have forums. So they're kind of going in forums and people are picking up the phone. And then 2009, 2010, social awareness becomes bigger. So you could say it started, like Ross said, day 2, but socially, probably 2009, 2010 is when stores started talking to each other socially
Facebook,
and open market, like
Facebook. Great point. That's a huge
point.
Well,
I think you're right, Jesse, but I started hearing post collapse before 2000. That was when I was around 99, 2000s when I was going to open my first store, and I didn't open it for another 5 years. I started hearing, oh my God, dude, this is such horrible. We have to get all of our comics from one people. They don't give two shits about us since the collapse, and there's not enough of us. These guys aren't paying that attention to us. That's what I was hearing pre-store opening from the people who were in that, and
right.
we're in it before the collapse, during the collapse, didn't make it through the collapse, and we're still going after the collapse.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a challenge because social synergy is very big, right? If you say something, social synergy goes out and it incorporates not just the comic book store and the publishers and the distributors. Now the comic book fan is involved in it. So you kind of got to go back to where the comic book fan really isn't in that conversation. When do you think that would be, Ross, where the comic book fan is they're just buying their books. They really don't know what's going on.
Well, I mean, I think that as soon as you have the monopoly and something goes wrong, I mean, in 1991, I was the guy that was going through your comics trying to pick the absolute perfect near mint book out of the 15 to 25 copies of New Warriors that you ordered. And, when they were all crunched.
An OG speculator.
Absolutely. And when they were all crunched, the store owner blamed Diamond. Here's the true OG, by the way. When I came to LA in '92, I used to shop at two different stores because one was a Capital shop and one was a Diamond shop. This was before I went to work at Malibu. But the point is that store owners verbally blamed Diamond for shortcomings of any kind. It was a convenient scapegoat for disappointment. And I always thought it was a terrible idea because you're teaching your fan base to hate on a company that you're dependent upon. It's bad customer service. There's a myriad of reasons that you shouldn't be teaching your customers how you get your comics, and that there's a big bad evil that you are doing the bidding of and you have no choice. So, that's my opinion. It's not how the world worked out.
And we've been social media friends for so long, I fall right into that.
Yeah. We have Dennis, who is the little devil on your shoulder, and Jesse, who is like that little angel on your shoulder that's going, okay, we know what's going on here, but it's not that bad. One glass is half full, one glass is half empty.
It's a WWE match.
Well, I can tell you just from my experience. When I got into this game in 2005, March of 2005, so my 20th anniversary is
Johnny come lately. Kid.
Yeah, I know.
You're a kid, Dennis.
Well, yeah, but I was on the convention circuit since '93, so
doesn't count.
Yeah, it does. So at that point in time, I had figured it out because I came from the speculation game, as a collector, just like you. I knew that, this thing and that thing were kind of happening, but I wasn't really paying attention to it. When I got in, I'm like, okay, I know how to do this. I'm going to try to do this on a different level. I'm going to play the long term on, a lot of these books. I'm going to speculate as a retailer. And I did damn good. I mean, I can count on one hand how many huge books I was not a part of. And how I had
Superman
no inventory.
75, Spider-Man 1. I'm just kidding.
Well, but I'm talking about from my 2005 era forward.
Yeah. Oh, fair enough.
So the only thing that I can say as that guy who was damn good, and when you see me pull out stacks of books, Brian,
I've seen
how
it.
good I was.
I've seen it.
Okay,
yeah.
So from that, the only thing that could hurt my business model was Diamond underperforming. And that really got in my craw. That one thing that I had zero control on could absolutely decimate a business decision that I was making for my business.
Yeah.
And that was just something I couldn't attest to. I just couldn't.
We're kind of, this is a perfect topic that, I dropped this in our group chat earlier, and Comic Book Money's in the chat right now. Comic Book Money put this post, and it's a perfect time to segue this in. Comic Book Money put this post on our recent episode, and he says, so comics, Pokemon, and collectibles have been a great speculatory market for about 10 years. So how do all these shops owe so much to Diamond? Are shop owners just bad comics and collectible sellers in general? I assume some shops own their buildings, so not everyone has rent and eBay. How are shops so in debt to Diamond?
Can I take that one, Brian?
Oh, that's easy. That's such an easy one. You go first, Dennis.
Okay, so first of all, from the Pokemon standpoint, or we'll talk about that at a different time. Right now, let's just talk comics. And Comic Book Money over in the chat said, or I'm sorry, Les Hill over in the chat said, cash flow business. It's absolutely cash flow business. Jesse, am I wrong in saying that at least 20% of your 500 box holders would be late?
Let's put it this way: that would be late the first day. I would say probably you're at the 35 to 40% level.
Okay, so let's just say 33%, so that we got a nice round 1/3 number. 33% of your box holders are going to basically put your money to sleep. Think of Joe Pesci in Casino. 33%, you paid for those comics from Diamond, you put them in a box, and 33% of your customers take that money and put it to sleep till they decide to come in and maybe put 10 or 20% of that back and only pick up, you know, the ones they want to get. So that's the first hurdle. Second hurdle is you've got to have cash for when that collection comes in. That collection, you know, with the Silver Age comic books, with the collection with, you know, the Star Wars vintage toys, the collection of Pokemon cards, you know, that has a Charizard in it. You've got to have that cash. So you rob Peter to pay Paul and hope that those deadbeat customers come in and give you that money before you got to pay the rent. One of the things that was my big sticking point with Diamnond was I had spent over $5 million with Diamnond as one of my biggest suppliers. And Diamnond had never reported a single thing to the credit reporting agencies that I was good credit. And that was what was killing me from buying my own building. So yeah, I kind of got stuck in the rental ghetto of strip malls where the landlord wouldn't replace my roof on time. And then the first rain, I'd lose $10,000 worth of inventory. You know, there's a lot of things that Diamnond didn't do to help protect guys like me. So I had to live in a cash business, and rent and do all of the things that
Why does Diamnond have to protect you from that though?
Well, because if the industry goes from 10,000 stores or 15,000 stores to 2,500 stores, and then 2,500 stores to 2,000 stores, and 2,000 stores to 1,500 stores, and now 1,200 stores, do you want more stores, or do you want to soak the remaining stores for the last bit of money they have?
Soak?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's very plain and simple. Diamnond is a PPP, passionate patient partner. And unfortunately, they don't have credit lines. So Dennis could literally start today. I'll just say, but my first day, I placed an order for $10,000. What the hell do I know? Right? I'm going to order $10,000. No one stops and says, do you know what you're going to sell? Do you know if you could sell this? Do you know when you can sell this? There's no one there to kind of put a pause on your orders for growth. In the industry I came from, we would go to a company, let's say Ferragamo, and we'd go to Ferragamo and say, we want to order $10 million or so. Great. Excellent. We meet them. Okay, this is what we're going to sell you, $6.5 million. Diamnond doesn't do that. They allow yourself to get into debt with people that don't have business 101 and understand budgets. And so that becomes a big issue. The other problem is net 7s, net 15s, 30s, 60s, 90s. People in the comic book world, it's kind of funny. You come to this world thinking, oh my gosh, I got to do this, do that. First time I met Ross, I was in a suit because that's how I thought you met people. You wore suits at conventions and stuff like that, and being the only person in a suit. So it really came down.
I was impressed.
Yes, exactly.
I remember.
Yeah. So it's more about Diamnond not budgeting comic book stores and saying, listen, you owe us $5,000. We're not going to send you anything else until you at least pay half of it or 25% of it. Instead of, well, you owe us $5, we'll send you another $2, and hopefully that $2 will help you pay off the $5. And it just builds and it builds and it builds. And so I think there's three folds to this. They're very passionate about their partnership. They're very patient, and they want you as a partner. And when you have those three philosophies, it's very tough to tell someone, I can't ship you anything else.
Well, there's
right.
part of this there's part of this that I want to hit on because Comic Book Money says he brings up eBay in this, and he brings up in the chat. He goes, those are negatives, but eBay and aftermarket are also big boost. I don't think half those stores are even selling on eBay and the aftermarket.
I would tell you about 80% are not selling on eBay. Why? Because that's not how they're taught. Because number one, they aren't taught, and number two,
absolutely.
A lot of stores can't multitask.
So I opened in 2005 And at 2009, I discovered Amazon as a third-party selling platform for myself. And by 2010, 2011, I was starting to make almost as much money in store as I was on Amazon. So I was excited. I thought I had found the Rosetta Stone that was going to help all my retail brothers and sisters sell on Amazon, help sell their overstock. So, because I had already at this point bought out 3 or 4 stores and just moved their inventory to Amazon and was just turning and burning that. And I went to Diamnond, and I'm like, guys, I would love to teach all the retailers at a retailer summit how they can get on Amazon and how they can start doing what I'm doing. Because at that point, I had the financial independence that I wanted. I didn't have the credit, but I had enough money to do whatever I needed to do. It was Dennis's level of FU money. And they were like, oh, absolutely not, Dennis. That Amazon's one of our competitors. We don't want retailers selling on Amazon. And I'm like, why? So there is a partnership, Jesse, but it is a chained partnership by a lot of measures.
So what's going to happen to all those stores that owe money to Diamond? Is that going to get washed?
Well, no, it won't get lost.
Let's ask Ross. Ross, you know the situation. Do you know the situation where about 80% of Diamond retailers are in arrears with Diamond?
That's something I never had privy to, because that's between Diamond and the stores.
Right.
But they never would throw that at you, like if they were late with the payment or anything. Like,
no.
Oh, hey.
No, these stores are that owe Diamond money. No matter the bankruptcy is not saving these stores. That's going to be kind of something that's going to put some pressure on these stores to pay those bills. Bankruptcy business, this BK11 is very challenging because that is money that they have said is owed to them.
Yeah.
So to get approved to the judge and your trustees, then say, okay, what's going on? Your trustee every week is going to be saying, does Dennis still owe you $5,000? Does Ross still owe you $5,000? If not, why aren't we collecting this money? It's not like that these stores sit.
But at what point is that bankruptcy liaison? There's usually a person who's kind of in charge over you, that the court puts in charge of you. At what point is that guy going to go, why are you still sending books to Jesse? He owes us money.
That's all right, but that's probably already started. That would be one of the first jobs that person has, is to get that money into Diamond so they can start paying their bills. Just because they have this DIP, and that DIP, that's a completely different situation.
What's a DIP?
So the debtor in possession that they just got for the $41 million, that's moving forward. But people going back in reserves, they got to pay those bills, and I could see some of them that owe a lot of money just being cut off. I mean, that's probably what's
I think. Well, that's what I was saying last week on Swag Show.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a high probability, and then like what you were saying, you think Lunar's going to take somebody that owes Diamond X amount of money at this point?
Well, Lunar's not taking anybody at this point.
Right.
Oh, when did that happen?
Well,
Lunar's been at full capacity for a while. Lunar's made it clear they're not taking on any new clients. And Penguin Random House, I don't know anything, so I have to be clear. Penguin Random House bought Boom. So this is not a conversation I've had with Penguin Random House, but I would be really surprised if they took on any publishers.
So this got...
It's the margins need to be worthwhile.
Yeah.
And who's got a size of business that's worth taking on. Yeah. And the problem is the rest of the market is a lot of small percentage publishers.
But we're talking about the publishers with that conversation. I'm talking about the retailers. And
the question is, how do you collect? That's the question. And at the end of the day, here Haven for Heroes says they could sell that debt to a debt collector. But when you do that transaction, everyone's agreeing that the debt collector, you've given up on that money. So it's 5 cents, 5 cents on the dollar, so that's a last chance gas. So, the issue that you've got is how do you get the money from these stores? And but if you get some, the bad example is it all COD? This is outside my purview. So I'm not qualified to have this. The three of y'all are much more qualified to comment on this than I am.
Well, it was interesting because this got announced today. Diamond Comic Distributors receives court approval for $41 million in debtor in possession financing. And it says, we are pleased that the court has approved our DIP financing agreement. The court-approved relief is a crucial step for the company, ensuring that we can pay our vendors and provide product to retailers. And that was from Chuck Parker, the president.
So that's interesting. So that is debt incurred. That's a debt incurred loan. So everything before this has nothing to do with that.
Can I ask Ross a question?
Everything going forward. And what happens is they become senior in the debt as well. So if they're doing 41 million, they're on top, and Penguin's second now. They're not first. It gets inverted. So they're everything going forward. And then you go into extension debt, which means you're out of bankruptcy and you go forward. So that is a very confusing part of bankruptcy that people think, they're going to be able to take that 41 million and pay off their debt. No, they're not. That's for moving forward.
No, that's the capital. That's so that they're capitalized so that they can go forward and collect the debts.
Yep.
But it's also a big vote of confidence that Chase feels like Diamond showed Chase their operations and said, we want to get a loan for $41 million so that we can continue to operate. And here's the road out of bankruptcy. Because Chase, they're no dummies, right? Yeah. So that's a huge bank. They're not going to sit there and just write a check to little Jimmy.
So 2 questions, and feel free to not answer the one. Did from 2020 COVID Diamond shutdown to July of 2024, was there any hiccups in the Diamond paying boom?
No.
None. Okay. So
there was the period where they shut down distribution for 2 months.
Yeah, and they froze everything at that point. Yeah. Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So there was a weird. We don't have the money to pay everybody because of COVID.
But that isn't. And then that they weren't capitalized and didn't have.
They were paying.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. So the second question I have is.
This is exciting.
Well, no,
he forgot it.
Especially when he's got to touch his head for.
Hey Bruno.
I literally brain lost it when I came up with the first question. Don't worry about it. Move on.
This is a very unsatisfying conclusion.
Okay, so
it is.
Ross, you've kind of been chilling last couple months since the sale of Boom, and you've been kind of looking at it from the outside in a little bit. What is your thoughts on 2025 for the comic industry? I want to pick your brain and what you think about 2025 and where we're going. Have you been paying enough attention to have any real big feelings on that?
Let's see. How do I get hate mail? I'm going to get so much hate mail. Okay, so I'll be objective here for a second. So when I look at the conversation, all I see in the conversation from every angle, from the fans, from the retailers, from the publishers, is there's too much product.
Yeah.
Right?
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, it's just every retailer forum says there are too many books coming out. All the fans go, I can't pay any attention to anything because there's so much stuff coming out. The fans are excited because there's good stuff coming out, but they just can't keep track of all the things. They fall off of series very easily. I see Facebook threads where somebody's like, this issue 7 was great. And the other guy's like, oh, I stopped reading at issue 3, but I didn't mean to. So I got to go back and get 4, 5, and 6, 7 because so much stuff is happening. I can't keep track of it all. So all the chatter is there's too much stuff. And so now I'm going to be Bugs Bunny, and I'm going to be pop in and I'm going to go, there's going to be less stuff.
Yep.
Well, no, absolutely. And I'll tell you what, I saw the hints of that at San Diego with Marvel's presentation, which is, we're glad you all love the Ultimates line, but we have no plans to add any more than 2 more Ultimates titles over the next year. That was a measured response, a rare measured response from Marvel.
Marvel is usually, I will do what I want and you will like it.
And we will flood the zone if we feel we have a winner. And they said, we're pulling back. And to their credit, Ultimate Wolverine is the first new Ultimate titles since then.
Well, this list came out today also, I believe. Top 50 comic books by units for 2024. Number 1, Absolute Batman, number 1. Number 2, Ultimate Spider-Man, number 1. Number 3, Absolute Superman, number 1. Number 4, Absolute Batman, number 2. Absolute Wonder Woman, number 1. X-Men, number 1. Ultimate Spider-Man, number 2. Uncanny X-Men, number 1. Ultimate Spider-Man, number 3. G.I. Joe, number 1. So those are the number 1 books of 2024.
Okay, but
Who made this list?
This is from this data was collected based on calendar year 2024 sales rankings, represent sales to consumers by comic stores during the period. We're reporting the top 50 comics on the public site and the top 200 comics on the pro site. So this is from ICV2.
I honestly would love to know where they got these numbers from because Lunar is in control of the first 5 of those. And is that sales of comic books to Lunar that they hold to sell to retailers?
It doesn't matter because it's a snapshot index. This isn't as accurate as the former ICV2 top 300, which was pretty accurate. There was some plus or minus, but the thing is, this is just a snapshot. And like, look, there's going to be 2 things I'm going to comment on this. And the first one is for McClay, just for fun. So Capital, when Capital existed, had a business-to-business newsletter that they published that was for retailers, and it was called Internal Correspondence. Okay. One of the reasons that you publish that is so that you can sell ads in it, so that you can charge publishers to buy ads and you can make money. Okay. But it was called Internal Correspondence. So Milton Gripe and John Davis owned Capital City Distributors. When Capital went out of business, Milton started the website Internal Correspondence 2, ICV2. Internal Correspondence Volume 2.
That's cool. That's super cool.
That's some cornbread right there.
Yeah. So I'm telling you guys, I every time that I talk to Ross, no matter what the conversation is, I'm being blown away by multiple things about the history of comics. So that's why one of the other reasons why we bring him on.
I'm an excellent driver.
You are.
So so the second thing that I'm going to point out is this is the Matrix. So the Ultimate books happen, like the Ultimate books. So over publishing creates fan confusion. And then you put out Ultimate Spider-Man 1, and all those Spider-Man fans have one Spider-Man comic that matters, and they all converge on that. Now, Ultimate Spider-Man number 1 is an excellent book. Jonathan Hickman's a brilliant writer, okay? And clearly the Into the Spider-Man universe sort of dad bod Spider-Man called forth this version, okay? And that we had never seen before. But so there was pent-up demand, there's, it's a good take, all those things. I'm not saying any of that's not true. But what I'm saying is when you're making too many Spider-Man comics, sort of you're summoning Ultimate Spider-Man number 1. It's the same thing at DC for Batman. That book's great. That creative team is killer, taking nothing away from them. By these books, I study them as examples of the craft. My hat tip, they are A+ comics. But there is a market condition where the market is confused by too much product.
Yeah.
And then you go, here's one Batman comic, and you go, I have to have that Batman comic.
Can I ask you a side question?
Yeah.
Because I know you're reading Absolute Batman and you love it.
Yes.
And
yes.
We both know Scott. We all know Scott Snyder.
Yes.
Do you think Scott Snyder was watching Reacher and just thought, I could make Batman just like Reacher?
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah. That's my take on it, because I know Scott, and every pitch he's ever given me was, it's this character in this movie. And I was like, oh, okay. Because he pitched me on All-Star Batman as it's Midnight Run, but with Batman and Two-Face. And I was like, I'm sold.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, that physicality that Batman has. Yeah, that's cool. It's definitely. I could see that.
Ross,
I would not be surprised.
One of the things.
Can I just add on this, Brian, before you ask the question? So I still believe you have to go, no matter what, it comes down to the comic book buyer, their spend to budget.
Yes,
that's what I was going to say.
Right. Yeah. Back to the 80s. I remember when comics were 50 cents each or late 70s. And so my daughter got 2 comics and they did that 60-cent jump where I could only buy 1 comic. Right.
Yes.
And so throughout our history, we've gone from our $20 got us 20 books, then it got us 10 books, then it got us $5, and now we're barely to 3 books on our $20. People can't expand their budgets more because they have to buy milk and they have to buy food and all that, which is crazy to think of not putting that into comics. But so we have to look at that extension of budgets. And when that person looks at the wall and they got $20 in their pocket and at $5.99 each with tax, they're getting 3 books.
I can't tell you how many people.
It's a game of chicken.
I can't tell you how many of my friends and people that have talked about it on shows has said these exact words. My goal this year is to get my pull list, my pull box under $100 a month.
Yep.
Oh, I know what my question was. I remember my question. We were talking about, bringing the product lines down. Can Marvel and DC, can Lunar and Penguin, well, Penguin and House can survive without anybody else. They got so many other irons in the fire, including your former iron.
Largest publisher in the world.
Yes.
Penguin Random House.
So, but can Lunar and DC and can Marvel's offices survive cutting the product lines in half and producing less products? Can those offices survive cutting their product lines in half?
Go ahead, Ross, but I have an answer to that. So,
what do you mean survive?
Yeah.
So if they're firing on, all the editors, all the writers, all the in-house, and all the bigwigs, David Gabriel's salary, and whoever's running DC right now, all those salaries, all those people, all the hires at the top, all of a sudden they're operating on whatever they're selling now. And we all agree that they need to cut those product lines by a lot because the customers don't have the money to spend $5 a book every month on fluff. They're going to focus on, obviously, in the last year, they focused on these top 10 lines. Can they survive cutting all those in half?
No.
So a cut of the product is going to mean a cut of the industry's source. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
how many of those writers and creators can even deserve to be there at this point? I apologize for interrupting, but you know what I mean?
No. Look, I can't answer that, but here's the thing is everyone on the outside looks at situations like this and says, what these publishers need to do is they need to publish more good books.
Yep.
And the publishers are inside the companies going, yes, we agree. Right. I can't tell you how many great comic books I greenlit that got stillborn at the first issue and nobody in the industry cared and the book sunk without a trace. Yep. I can't tell you how many books I greenlit. Like Lumberjanes is one of the greatest stories. I was absolutely instrumental creatively in helping to create the environment for Lumberjanes to happen. And I remember being a Comics Pro and we got initial orders of 7,500 copies. And I thought that we had topped out. And within 4 days, we were at 15,000. And I was getting vertigo because I thought that it was absolutely insane. We sold over 1 million copies of that book.
Right.
So the last person who knows if the book is good is the publisher.
Right.
Because they're all good. Yeah. Right? Like, do you remember Marvel did that series Gods with Hickman?
Yep.
And it came out and like all they did was try to tell retailers, this book is great. And I'll tell you, all the online guys I followed, they all read it and they loved it. Yeah. The book didn't sell.
Didn't sell much shit.
Yep. And so at the end of the day, it's like Marvel's going, we're delivering a great product. Jonathan Hickman's writing a great script. The artist was killer. I can't remember their name. They were amazing. And the book sunk without a trace. But it's like, at the end of the day, as a publisher, all you're trying to do is put out great product, but some things hit and some things don't.
So coming from the business side of this, isn't it better to lower your titles to work better on your turn rates and your sell-throughs, which give you bigger profits in the end, with extension of sales of issues 2, 3s, 4s, and 5s without trying to reinvest in number 1s that are going to tank?
Well, okay. So let's take one level of detail deeper. So so now I'm out of things I know and I'm into projection and speculation. Okay. But when I see Marvel put out a first issue of Dazzler, they're capitalizing on the Taylor Swift hype. This is from a year and a half ago or 2 years ago or whatever it was. And they are going to put 1 million variants on that, knowing that people love to buy first issues and they love to buy variants. And they know that that book is dead by issue 4. And sometimes it gets up and dances. Like if you remember, Deadpool and Spider-Man was supposed to be a miniseries.
Right.
Or sure. Spider-Man Deadpool was supposed to be a miniseries, and it turned into an ongoing because it was such a big hit, and nobody was more surprised than Marvel.
Superior Spider-Man, the same thing.
Right.
They thought they were going to run 4 issues and then bring Peter back.
Right, and that started from Transformers, which was the first time that had happened.
Yeah.
4-part series goes to XYZ. But go ahead.
Right. So you know what if you're so let's look at this from a Dave Gabriel perspective, right? So I'm sales at Marvel, and I have a vast catalog. You know, this is ascribing Dave control, which he doesn't have. So, you know, this is a Dan Buckley call, right? So you have a vast treasure trove of characters. You know, how far down is Dazzler? You know, Rogue feels like, did you see this Rogue and Savage Land? Like yes. I walked into the shop and I saw they had a poster of Rogue and Savage Land. I was like, that is so smart.
Yeah.
That book is going to sell through the roof. Now, does anybody think that book's Watchmen? No. Right? It's just, all it needs to be is Rogue
nostalgia
and that costume and Savage Land. Done. Right?
Yep.
But that's an example of, you sit there and you go, you know, you're in the conference room and you're like, what do we got for March? And everybody's got nothing. Right? And you're like, you can't not have anything for March. Right? So somebody puts their hand up and says, Rogue and Savage Land. You're like, that's the book. Let's go. Right? Let's hit April. What do you got for April? Nobody's got anything for April? Okay, well, we got 4 weeks to figure it out. Right? And that's how you do your schedule. And so, you know, we ascribe too much strategy to this. The truth of the matter is this thing is this fast-moving train that you're just desperately trying to keep on the tracks. And when you've got the juice and it's flowing, you're in a great place. And when things are slowing down, you're screwed. And you got to figure it out. And it's incredibly challenging and it's really difficult. And I'm telling you that the folks that are calling the shots are 5 times better, 10 times better than you think they are, because that job is unrelenting and so insanely difficult. Now, Jesse, you're asking about margins, and what you're saying is can you pare back and focus on the hits? But if you do that, you're not publishing Dazzler. You're not publishing Rogue and Savage Land, right? And, you know, you look at other things where you go, Gwenpool. I mean, let's have a Jeff the Shark conversation.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Sure.
Somebody should be saying, what are you doing screwing around with this Jeff the Shark thing? Right? And then Jeff the Shark hits. And now Jeff the Shark is the thing. Yeah. But that's, you know, Gwenpool, like you're down at the bottom. It's like there's all these little things that are down here. I mean, we're all old enough to remember when Deadpool was down at the bottom.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Sure.
Where you're like, another Deadpool.
Sorry about that.
Oh, and so, you know, you've got to you're sitting there and you're putting stuff out and stuff hits and stuff doesn't. And the things that you thought were going to run don't. And other things get up and dance that you never saw in a million years. You know, you're putting all your energy into Gods, and Jonathan Hickman's a genius, and it dies. Right. And then you're rolling the dice. So you're like, well, hopefully Ultimate Spider-Man is going to hit, but who knows if it's been long enough or too long. and you get it right.
Do you remember when Morrison took over Batman? Like 010,
Yeah. I was going to say 09. Yeah.
Yeah, 09, 010. And they're banging them out. Every one of them is a killer. And then Morrison's just like, yeah, my tank's empty. I gotta take a break. And they threw I think it was 4 or 5 filler issues till Morrison had a script to come back. And those books just flatlined.
Yeah.
And then when it came back, the retail orders were not as strong for that return of Morrison. And it petered out after, they gave him a crossing all titles, Batman Rest in Peace, and all that crap. It never came back.
Recovered.
Consistency is highly underrated,
right,
in this industry.
Yep. You gotta deliver. You gotta be. Once somebody puts you on a pull list, do not give them a reason to cancel the pull list.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. Hey, Ross, can you tell us what is the game plan doing a summit, a Diamond Summit, your breakouts, Comics Pro? What is the overall goal at doing those? On doing those?
Well, I will say, okay. My opinion is that the standard comic book way to do it is to send your sales guy and not pay attention. And your sales guy gets up there and reads from a list of things that are coming up and presents product information, which is fairly straightforward. Or you get fancy and you fly out a creative, and then you hobnob and buy some retailers' drinks and you go home. And I think it's because you don't know what to do. And I say that without any judgment. Like the argument is that's what Bob Wayne did and was the most successful, greatest of all time GOAT that you could possibly say. I mean, Bob was he blew me away. Like I was taking notes with him all the time. And so it's not a criticism, right? It's an opportunity to press the flesh. Not everybody can get in the same place ever. So the opportunity to do that is gold. I looked at it and I thought, we have to stand out. And so this is an opportunity to stand out. And I iterated a couple of different things. Like one year I went to a summit early on, and I think it was in Dallas, it was Diamond. And I thought nobody knows who I am, and they don't know my background and my history in the business. And so I just did a whole presentation. This is who I am. And it didn't have any product in it. And people were shocked that I didn't have a single solicitation in it. But I thought, you have the Diamond previews, you can look at, I spent a lot of time on Diamond previews, designing those ads and creating that copy. All that copy I wrote. So I was like, it's either going to work or it's not. But what I want them to understand is who I am, because I'm one of them.
Right.
And
sure.
when they understand who I am, they'll connect. And then that changed and morphed through the years. And what, Philip and I in the last sort of like 8-year run was, poor Philip, because we would work on that presentation till the wheels came off.
Dude, I tell Philip this every time I talk to him. That new shoes speech he gave at, I think it was Vegas, was one of the best sales pitches to retailers, because it came from his heart.
Well, that one of the guys that was really influential to us was Simon Sinek, and his whole, if you haven't encountered his work, go look him up online. Sinek, and one of his signature ones is, people don't buy what you sell, people buy what you do.
Yep.
Jesse just told that to me the other day in different words, man.
Yep. So we focused on that. Yep.
Yeah, I want to do a follow-up question on that. This kind of a setup question. So 2009, 2010, 2011, 12, 13, 14, 15, you're going to the Diamond Summits. You're seeing 1,000 people in the audience, 1,200 people showing up. Was it concerning as you started seeing less and less retailers showing up? Or was that something you never really noticed?
I looked at it as I had no control. And so what I had control over was, if we were doing Proof Bill wrong, or we were like delivering, a heartfelt sort of, this is why you should connect. We're just focused on that. And if we did that right, it would land and it would affect the sales. And I'm to a certain degree, I don't believe in the numbers game. So I would tell you from a publisher perspective that I knew that if I could hit or connect with 5 to 15 influencers, now who those were, I'm not talking about influencer like the way you say influencer on Instagram.
Right.
Okay. But there are people in the business that when they react to something, they open more people up to getting into it. And so I knew it's like I need a precision to be able to hit these different people.
Who do you think was the best one? Name off a couple of the retailers that were like the best like that. And I'm not talking about me. I'm not mugging for me.
Well, Dennis,
I'm curious. I'm curious.
You haven't even bought me dinner.
They didn't have to be retailers, though, did they? I mean,
no.
You're right.
Talking about
some of them weren't. Some of them weren't. Yeah.
He's talking about being at a retailer summit and trying to connect with a couple of the influential retailers that were in that audience.
You know who they are. You could just name them.
Yeah, that's easy.
But I mean, could you really get through to a Hibbs at a retailer summit?
Oh, well. So Brian's in California. I'd just call him. Right. So I don't like Hibbs. Hibbs was influential, not in what he liked. Hibbs was influential in what he didn't like.
Right. Yeah.
Great.
That's his specialty is that. So, me and Dennis have agreed that we have kind of moved on from influencers to experiencers in the comic book industry because there's not a lot of experienced retailers left. Right. So you have these experiencers in the comic book industry, but not all of them are social advanced. Right. They're still in their neck of the woods. You know who those people are. So we have evolved tremendously as retailers. And some of us have jumped to different levels because we wanted to. We wanted to be more socially known. As I've traveled the nation, I tell this all the time. I just did 4,400 miles in 5 days going to comic book stores. And guess what? Still, people didn't have cash registers. Their cash drawer was their pockets. They didn't, hey, can I get a card? I don't have a card. Where can I follow you on? Oh, here's my phone number. Oh, you don't have Facebook? No. Do you have an eBay store? No, eBay. I wouldn't do eBay. Who buys from eBay? So we have the standard comic book fan. We have the influential influencer, comic book store owner. I'm sorry, comic book store owner, the influencer, and then you have the experiencers. There's not a lot of experiencers out there right now. A lot of them are retiring. So you do have a lot of groups of different type of retailers on how they focus and how they function that you have to pivot your conversation to when you're talking to them.
Well, I want to add back to the Hibbs story, and I want to just tell a sidebar because one of the names that doesn't get brought up nearly enough when talking about Diamnond is Dave Hawksworth, one of the best employees Diamnond ever had.
Sainted.
Dave Hawksworth knew more about everybody in this industry than anybody that ever worked in Diamnond, in my opinion. And I remember one time because I was one of his lucky lunch dates when he came to the Michigan area. So we would have lunch or dinner when he would come to the Michigan area. And I remember I was talking to him. I was like, well, yeah, but, I can't remember what the topic was, but it came up to my ordering versus Brian Hibbs. And he's like, Dennis, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, I mean, surely Hibbs is ordering 10 times this. And Bubba goes, Dennis, you're easily double Hibbs's volume. I had no idea from Hibbs's influence level. I honestly thought he was moving so many books out of Comic Experience, and he was below me in ordering. And I'm like, how the hell is everybody listening to him and ignoring me then?
Yeah, but that's it. But Dennis, how many comic book shows that are, let's say, the top 15 shows actually order comic books.
Right. Exactly. And
we're in a completely different world now.
Yeah.
Yep. No, it's interesting. Okay. Not to totally change the subject.
So just, very quickly before we move on, when we talk about influencers. So before launching the Berserker Kickstarter.
That's exactly where I was going.
Yep.
I made a list of retailers and I called them all individually and I told them what I was going to do. And I called folks that I knew, talked to other folks because I couldn't call everybody, right? And when we launched, we got support from the retail community because people understood. Now, it was designed to support the retail community, but I knew that people would easily gloss over that and not see it in the shock of us announcing what it was. But if I took the time, the 2-3 days to connect with everybody and explain and lay out why it was good for the business, then when it happened and one retailer in Michigan, Dennis texts another retailer in South Carolina, then you could go, no, this is really what's going on. So you got to get out ahead of it, right?
So that's perfect. The synchronicity always on this show just blows me away. I mean, it's unreal. That's one of was going to be my next question, was talking about Kickstarters and what 2025. What are your thoughts on Kickstarters and comics in 2025? But before we get into that specific question, I want to talk about Berserker itself, because that came up in a recent show that we did. I want to give a big shout out to Brian McClay and his new Coffin launch, which he's in 44 hours. He's going to be doing a live presentation.
So smart.
Yep.
So
about
smart.
Lady Death Savage Rain. And I think we all agree that Brian McClay is the tip of the spear when it comes to this stuff in the industry right now. He like you said, just so smart, and this is going to be such a game changer, and how this works, and how long it takes to work, if it works right away, it's going to be, everybody's eyes is going to be on this. And while talking about this last week, it came up about Kickstarters, and it came up about Berserker, and how that helped the retailer community, and a lot of people don't see how much that helped the retailer community, and I want to talk about that. One of the things that came up was that so many of those initial orders, the Kickstarter went out, and then you guys did the retail version of it, right? How
right.
much?
Well, what you were ordering on Kickstarter was the graphic novel collections.
Yes.
So it was a different product.
Yes.
And then when it came to the direct market, they could order the individual issues.
Yes,
and
that's
they
what
got
I mean.
the product first.
Yes. And people didn't, I don't think people realized still how important that was, because it showed for the first time that you could pull that off and still have a book out on the retail world in comic shops be a huge success at the same time. And can you kind of talk about that a little bit much? I especially want to know, was that book fully refundable? Was it a percentage on that when you first put that the first issue? How did that work? Because I remember you talking about that on one show that we did, and that question came up, and I just want to kind of get that out of the way.
That memory, it's starting to fade, but I do think it was fully returnable.
Yeah, it was returnable.
Yep. Yeah.
And you could keep whatever level of the variant you didn't want to return too.
Yeah. Part of it was like having the bravado of I dare you. And we also know that there's going to be X number of jerks, right? And so you're just going to have to deal with the jerks, but you're going to make it big enough of a hit that the amount of jerks is not going to harsh your good time. And then meanwhile, like there's going to be, if you present your bravado correctly and you're a good partner and you have a good product, which that was a good product, then what are you scared of?
Yep.
And it, we blew it out of the box. I mean, it was like, I think we were 600,000, maybe, no, it was 650. So it was like the best selling thing since the 90s, right? And back when, pre-crash. And so it was really just like, how do you put as much wood as you can behind this fire? And, it was also the time of retailers doing exclusives. And so I knew for every retailer exclusive that we sold, we had a retailer who was pushing the book. And so I wanted retailers to push the book as much as possible. So I didn't want to gate the exclusives too high. I wanted everybody to be able to play.
I had so many friends that that was the book that where they bought every issue cover that came out. It was like the Pokemon, gotta have them all. The first time I ever really remember seeing that, where they were buying every cover that came out. They were hunting down everything. It was unbelievable. And I think for some reason that's faded in a lot of our memory, because it really showed that both could be successful. You didn't have to worry about it. You didn't have to worry about a publisher doing a crowdfunding effort and not being able to get back into comic book stores. But that being said,
I knew it'd be controversial. That was one of the reasons to do it. Like the idea that Keanu Reeves is asking for your money. How can you ignore that?
Yeah.
And by the way, one of the things you got to remember is that prior to Berserker, celebrity comics were frowned on.
Yep.
People were like, well, the celebrity doesn't do it, and it's not really a Black Eyed Peas comic.
I'll tell you from a standpoint, I had heard it a couple times. Oh, this celebrity has fallen low enough that they need us to buy their comic books. I remember even The Rock had some kind of book before his huge secondary explosion. He had some comic book where he lended his name to it, and I can't remember what it was.
So for me, it was like, let's make this is insane. Let's be insane.
Yeah.
Like Keanu Reeves is kickstarting something. As soon as somebody says that, you're spellbound. Like you're a looky-loo. It's like a car wreck. You got to know. Right. And look, the thing is for Keanu to say yes to that is bananas. Right.
Yeah.
It's such a testament to him
that
he got it and he understood it. And you didn't have to say, trust me, to him. Like once we laid it out and explained, he got it and he understood. And so what I believe is part of what great marketing is it isn't just the sweet, it's also the sour, right? You've got to have something weird that draws attention, that people are like, what is this? Right? Like, I don't understand. Whether it's like a movie where you see it's like against type casting, or like, whatever you want to, now I'm thinking of, Two Guns with Bill Paxton as the villain is like counterintuitive. So it's like, you need something that people look at and say, I don't understand what this is. This is crazy, to draw attention. And then once you have their attention, you have to deliver. And if you don't deliver, then they're burned and then you lose.
I don't want to pigeonhole you too hard, but I can think of 3 major books that were released by your era of boom that I legitimately call needle movers. It's kind of one of my catchphrases. What moves the needle beyond just sales in a comic book store, that gets outside, it brings people in, and it changes a trajectory. The first one was Power Rangers by Boom for me. The second one was, my timing's off, Berserker, and then Something is Killing the Children came out right after that.
Lumberjanes didn't do it? No.
Lumberjanes.
Something is Killing the Children was first.
For me.
Yeah.
Lumberjanes was huge for me, but I don't think the rest of the industry was as onto it as even you think it was, because I know stores were running out in our area and they were coming to me to buy it. I had 100 of that book, which is huge for me to order at that time from Boom, even with me liking you.
Yep.
So
so Something is Killing the Children came out before Berserker.
Okay.
Brian, before you go on the next question, the question is Kickstarters and then retail, right?
Yeah.
But didn't comic book stores go through that in the 70s with having the comic book store I worked at had a 7-Eleven across the street. They had a spinner rack. So we had competition every single week. So it's not like it's Kickstarters and then comic book stores.
Okay, but hang on. So the problem that stores had was, let's say you have two creators, they go to Kickstarter, they make a comic book, they're going to make an individual issue, okay? Then they're going to take that and they're going to solicit it to the direct market. And if I'm a retailer, I don't understand, is this different than what was sold on Kickstarter? I also don't understand how many of the people in my shop sponsored that Kickstarter.
Right.
So whenever you're in a place on a marketing basis where there's confusion, you're losing. And so that's how Kickstarter got this bad rep, was at first retailers supported it and then they got burned because they ordered a bunch of books, right, that didn't sell.
Yeah.
And then they got into a place where Kickstarter became just blanket no. And the thing that I felt that I did that was innovative was I was like, the real winner here is going to be, I'm 35-year-old chick. I read on USA Today that Keanu Reeves has a comic book. I want to buy it. And I don't want an individual issue. I want a graphic novel, right? I got $15. I got $25. Maybe I have $50 with Keanu's name on it, right? And so, and I want to click, and I don't want to go to your website, right? And the mechanism to get it on Amazon is too complicated that far ahead, right? So Kickstarter is easy because there's 15 million people on Kickstarter, right? They already have accounts. So you don't, and I trust Kickstarter. I've heard of Kickstarter. I don't mind giving Kickstarter my credit card. I don't know your website. I don't know how secure it is, blah, blah, blah. So the play to me was, don't sell a $3.99 comic or a $4.99 comic, sell a $15, $20 item and sell it to people that don't go into comic shops because it's some chick that loves Keanu Reeves comics and loves Keanu Reeves movies, and leverage that to create this mushroom cloud of publicity and excitement. And then we had a Kickstarter email list. Everybody that backed on Kickstarter, we had their email. And so when the first issue shipped that Monday before the Wednesday, we emailed them and we said, here's where we are in the production of the graphic novel. It's not complete yet, but we did a single issue that's $4.99. It's the story you're going to get. If you want to wait, it will come to you. Okay. But if you can't wait, also known as you can't wait, then it's coming out Wednesday.
Yeah.
Right.
So
can I add one more layer to that?
Yeah.
Let's just say you sold 1 million copies of that comic book to the 1,200 retailers that are out there, 1,500 back then.
Yep.
And your total gross sales would have looked like $3.9 million.
Okay.
Hollywood Reporter is not going to do a story that Boom Studios sold a Keanu Reeves comic to comic retailers at that level.
Correct.
But if you get the highest recorded comic book Kickstarter associated with Keanu Reeves, you get the Hollywood Reporter, you get the New York Times, you get all of that.
He appeared on Good Morning America.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I saw him on another, wasn't he on Kimmel or one of those too, talking about?
Yeah, it's on Kimmel. I like the Kimmel. Okay, this is so inside baseball, but the three of y'all will get a kick out of this because you've known me long enough. Rewatch the Kimmel segment. He imitates me in the Kimmel segment because you guys know me. You know the cadence. He was like, "I've got this comic book," and he does the Ross. He like leans forward and he goes, "You've got a comic book?" And it's like my staff just erupted in laughter because they were like, "That's Ross. He's doing Ross."
Right.
Anyway.
No, but that's a cool thing though that you would not have gotten from Diamond. I mean Diamond, did they even have a PR department to feed stuff like that out?
I mean, look, here's the secret is, doing that is really difficult, right? So like what happens is there's a press wire and you pay money, you write a press release and you send it out on the wire, and there's a million things going out on the press wire. And who knows if anybody picks it up. And if, Ukraine gets invaded by Russia that day, you're done, right? So, I knew that it's such a crazy idea that Keanu Reeves is kickstarting something. It's like, don't cover that. Try not to cover that. If it's somewhere in your domain, right? And they need stories. So here's the story.
How important is crowdfunding comics in 2025 do you think, for the comic book industry?
I think it's completely insane if people are not crowdfunding everything.
Yep.
I'm going to be as extreme as I possibly can be. I think there's a crowdfunding model for all of it. I think the next level is, let's say Dennis orders 20 copies of something. I'm not picking an outrageous number. There are two of the people that buy that their depth of wallet is past $4.99 for a first issue. Their depth of wallet is $20 for that series.
Yep.
And you can't harvest that $20 in any way through the traditional comic book channel. But if you go straight to the consumer through Kickstarter, you can create some extra, it's a challenge coin, or it's a who's he what's it, or it's scratch and sniff, or it's a bag that you put over your head. I don't know. But you can get that extra money from them. And I think the next level evolution is, you remember the early internet idea of if you have 1,000 true fans?
Yep.
It's Dennis, the notion is you get $100 from 1,000 true fans, you make $100,000 a year. You can quit your day job, right? And so this is a creator should be in a place. It's like a Patreon concept, right? But the rewards on Patreon are often kind of fuzzy and it's not clear, and you get to watch me drawing, and sometimes you put up a book. No, it's like you make a thing, right? And that's what Kickstarter is. At the end of the day, is you have all these extra tiers where you get something special for playing.
Yes.
And all of us that's on this panel, we have gone on Kickstarter and bought more than the bare bones product.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Because we wanted the cool thing, because
we're
fans.
What? You know what's also interesting,
so we know
about
they
that,
exist,
Ross, is that you bring up that I never thought of before until right now with you talking about this. People are saying, oh, but crowdfunding is taken away from the comic shops. Well, why can't a comic shop go, hey, if you go through me to buy this product, I'll create an extra tier that you can only get this special bookmark for this when you buy this Kickstarter through me.
I did that for Captain America's death issue back in 2008, I think it was, whenever they killed Captain America in Marvel. I saw the opportunity, and we went down to Joann's Fabric and we bought strips of black cloth, and we ironed on Captain America logos, because I wanted that classic Superman armband that they gave away with it. And you had to buy that book from me to get that armband. And I had people from other stores. My customers went over to try to find more copies for my competitors wearing that. And when they said, oh, I got that over at Wonderworld, they're giving them away today.
Yeah, if you were buying from Joann Fabric last year, they went to declare bankruptcy last week, just since you brought that up. So
it's your fault, Dennis.
Yeah, it's all your fault there.
I killed it.
So when I was in corporate, it was GCE, which is group, community, and experience. That's how you sell. Now, obviously, with Brian Pleto, it would be CCE, right? Cult, experience, and community. But people like to be part of something. Going into a store sometimes, in most stores, they feel like they're part of something. They're with that owner. Obviously, if the owner's off, they have a relationship with the team. Who knows how that works? I'll be in back sometimes. Hey, a customer needs you to come out. What can I help you with? Oh, I just want to let you and I buy a comic book, right? So you do have those relationships. But I think for the orphan customer, which I talk about nonstop, and I will never stop talking about orphan customers, they need to feel they're part of something, and Kickstarter allows them to be part of something. When they open up that extra tier and they say, oh my gosh, you helped us to open up tier number W, and you're then get that coin.
Yes.
I think one of the best guys that does that is Ethan Van Sciver. He has guys that jump onto certain tiers just because they're trading card guys, and he's put an extra 9 trading cards with this particular offer. He's got people that have keychains or PVCs, or He's got a different layer for every one of his fans that likes these other tchotchkes.
That takes us back to that original thing that Comic Book Money asked us, and talking about basically why are these comic book stores failing, to, owe so much money? Well, it's because they're not. So many comic stores don't think outside the box. We preach that over and over, that you have to become a collectible store anymore. Now you can't just be a comic book store. You have to come up with these ideas on how to see a Kickstarter and go, okay, Mark Spears is doing a prequel to Monsters. I know that those books are going to be super limited. I'm going to fund 6 of the Get Everything You Can tier, and know by September, as long as he fulfills, which there is a big problem with that. That's one of the biggest problems with crowdfunding. I think we need to make sure that more of these people that do start a crowdfunding opportunity, they fulfill it, right? But as long as they do fulfill, that's going to be pure profit. You have to be able, and most people don't even know who Mark Spears is that own comic book stores right now.
But they're bartenders. Most comic shop owners are there for a relationship with their customers. And the vision that they have is somebody's going to come in for Batman, and I'm going to sell them Batman. And then they're going to say, I've read a lot of Batman. What else is good? And then you're going to say, why The Last Man? And then they're going to have a happy customer.
Right.
And that's all they care about.
Yeah.
And that's cool.
Sorry. Go ahead, Jesse.
No, I'll just be real fast. The job of a comic book store owner is to give the greatest comic book therapy to your customer from afar, socially, and when they're in front of you, socially. That is our job, to be able to say to them, and Dennis will tell you this, how many kids have walked up to us and said, oh my gosh, I got my driver's license. Here it is. How many kids have walked up to us and said, oh my gosh, I just got my first job. I just went to I'm joining the military. Why? Because you're important, and you become part of their. They come in. That you see guys get out of cars and they're yelling on their phone. Yet the second they open up the door, they're the happiest person in the world.
I had 2 kids.
That is our job.
I had 2 kids come into my store this week to buy Pokemon cards. And I mean, when I say kids, they're 25, 30 years old. And they're talking and they're like, yeah, man, I'm still upset that I sold all my Yu-Gi-Oh cards back in the day. And I was like, oh, that sucks, man. Where'd you used to go? They're like, your store. I was like 12.
Yeah.
And it was like absolutely just mind blowing that these kids, and I didn't recognize them, but they recognized me.
Yep.
And like they've gone from 12-year-olds to beards and adults, and
yep.
I've stayed this.
Yeah, we're in the front line, so that
but they were dropping $200. They dropped $200 on Pokemon cards, and it's because I treated them fair 19 years ago when they were Pokemon Yu-Gi-Oh kids. Now there's.
So Ross, I want to ask you this question since we're talking about this. When you did the innovator program for retailers, and you really brought the retailers into the Boom family. I mean, it was like being in the Boom family. Why is it that other retailers never did that? Did they feel that they weren't obligated to do that? I don't want you to speak for them, but what would be your thought process?
You said why didn't other retailers do that, or did you say why didn't other publishers?
You said retailers, and I was going to add publishers, because
publishers. Yeah,
I said last week when I was talking to a publisher that we won't name that I suggested part of their strategy should be the Boom Innovators program. And I gave them 2 steps beyond that, where I thought they could do this on that scale. And they didn't do it for 4 years until 1 year before they went out of business.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. And look, the way I ran the company was I was hungry all the time. And so I had good employee retention, but I have no doubt that I drove people crazy because I just never quit. And I was always wanting to do the next thing. and you got to have bandwidth. And, that was something that Philip had a lot of passion for. And so that's critical too, because at the end of the day, I'm going to get sucked into some meeting with Netflix, and, it's going to be Philip's baby. So flying or dying. And so, look, Dark Horse is insanely successful. Dark Horse was insanely successful in 1989. So, why would you get off your tuchus to do more, right? You're like, your balance sheet is awesome. You're selling stuff all the time. You have a huge company. You're doing great. Image, there's a million ways that Image has been innovative in content as well as marketing. And they had an insanely strong brand. And so if I was Image, I'd be like, why do I need to do that? I don't need to. Saga is doing our work for us from Walking Dead. And so we were on the upswing. And so we were looking for, how do we keep ascending, or how do we make that ascent hotter? And the traditional comic book superpowers like Dark Horse or Image, they had gotten to where they were in for Dark Horse,
Right.
Again, 1989. For Image, they were there by, 1992. And so we had challenger energy, right? We had blood in our eye. We wanted to be on their tier, and we weren't going to quit. Like Ted Adams is a buddy of mine, and I am a huge admirer of Ted and what he did at IDW. And it drove me absolutely insane. I will never forget, they sold a first issue of Popeye and sold 15,000 copies. And when we were like thrilled to be selling 7,500 or 8,000 copies of something, and I thought, freaking Popeye.
Yeah.
And how did they do it? They did it because they went and got Roger Langridge, which we had broken on Muppets and had made hot. And so they grabbed Roger Langridge from us, and they go get this old and busted Popeye. I'm sorry, if you love Popeye, Popeye's awesome, but it's been a long time since Popeye's been relevant. Okay, so let's just all acknowledge that. Okay, and sold 15,000 copies. I mean, he was driving me completely insane, right? And I would see Ted at these meetings and be like, dude, I am such a gigantic fan of yours, and you are so kicking my ass, and it's killing me. And, that's the stuff that got me out of bed in the morning, is like, I would just be like, we gotta beat these guys. We got to get in here, And for me, what I always said to these guys at these shows when we would have dinner and we'd have drinks, I'd be like, I'm going to tell you what my view is. Your view might be different. My view is, you are my friend. I'm inviting you over to my house. We are going to drink and play poker. And while we play poker, I'm going to kick your ass. And if I do not want to kick your ass, if I do not kick your ass and you kick my ass, understand all I want during the poker game is to kick your ass. Okay.
Yeah.
And then when we're done, maybe I lost all my money. Maybe I made all the money, but I love you and you're my friend. And we'll drink and we'll tell some stories and you'll go home and hopefully we'll have a great night. And that's how I viewed comic book publishing. Other people wanted to rip my heart out. People hate.
Oh,
you know, look, and it's people's fortune, right? It's like their family lives or dies based upon comic book publishing. So I don't begrudge the intensity, right? But for me, when I said to Ted, like, you're driving me crazy, I'm a great admirer. I consider him a friend. And, he was kicking my ass. And I was like, I had, pocket jacks and he had pocket aces with Popeye at 15,000 copies and he's killing me. But, it was like, that's the game.
I treat every relationship of a adversarial nature like the sheepdog and coyote, where,
Clock in.
How you doing, Fred? Oh, pretty good. All right, let's go. Let's fight for a while. All right, whistle blows. Let's go have lunch. How's your wife doing? How's the kids? You have to. If you take this thing too seriously, you're going to drive yourself to an early grave. You just will.
Is there anywhere?
Do we know that Lauren Becker is listening? Sorry.
Is there anywhere that you see
my notes?
Is there anywhere that you see that?
That's the social moment. You need to clip that for me. That's from Instagram.
Love you, Lauren.
It's all about hits, man.
So do you see that innovation anywhere now? Is there anywhere now where you see innovation in the comic book industry that makes you go, oh, wow, that's where we need to keep our eye. That's where the puck is going right there.
I don't see I don't see anybody, I look at a company like Distillery that was designed to do that. And I think that there was a digital collecting component that I didn't understand. And perhaps that is succeeding. I don't know. I have no visibility, and I didn't engage, and I don't know. So maybe that's working. But the magazine format aspect ratio with the square bound that's kind of based on the DC Black Label model.
Right.
We did a book like that. Yeah. And it was like in the time that we greenlit it, by the time it came to market, that had moved on. And so what I worry about with Distillery is if they're stuck in a format that isn't necessarily working for the market right now.
Yep.
But they were trying to innovate at every level.
They just announced all their books are going up to $8.99, and there was a giant backlash in the retail community on one of the threads today.
So Ross, let me ask you this. I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning since we're talking about publishers. When something like this happens with Diamond, how much pause time do you have before you actually got to react and get back to business?
Well, I mean, it depends on where you are, right? So if you're at Penguin or you're at Lunar, you don't care. And you move on. I mean, I thought the reporting on the fact that Image wasn't letting Diamond buy their books was pretty funny because, of course, you wouldn't, right? I mean, Diamond is putting out a press release that says we can't pay our bills. And then they send you an invoice and say, we'd like to order more copies of The Walking Dead. And you're like, well, I'm not selling you copies of The Walking Dead because when am I going to get paid, right? And so that's just something to keep in mind as you see that reporting back and forth. And who knows if it's true? We don't know. We're not at Image. We're not at Diamond.
Right.
We're not at Lunar. But I would say that if you're on the Diamond end of things and you're a Diamond exclusive publisher, I don't think anything matters more. Right. So let's just go downstream here for a second. Okay. I know nothing Jon Snow. Let me be clear. I don't have any special privilege knowledge. Okay. My special privilege knowledge comes from being a publisher for 19 years. Okay. But the core blocking and tackling, let's say I am, today Massive put out a press release and they said that they are non-exclusive to Diamond. So if I was Massive's attorney, I would look at their contract with Diamond that made them Diamond exclusive. And I would say, has Diamond paid you? And the answer is going to be no. Then as the attorney, I would say, if Diamond has not paid you, they have not kept up the terms of this contract and they are in breach and you no longer have to be exclusive to Diamond. And if Diamond feels otherwise, they need to engage with you legally and tell you that they're going to sue you. And then at that juncture, you can decide whether you want to go to court. Now, you'd be going to court with a Chapter 11 company. So right. Chances are they got bigger fish to fry. So if you're a gambling man, which what entrepreneur isn't, you're figuring, I can go non-exclusive with Diamond right now. I have to, okay, and let them come after me because they're probably not going to come after me because they're either going to be out of business or they're going to have to dealing with Penguin Random House. So they got bigger fish to fry, right? Okay, so now you're non-exclusive and anybody can order your product. Okay, cool. Through what channel? Okay, because Lunar didn't take them on as a client and Penguin Random House didn't take them on as a client, as far as I know. Okay, so now I want Massive comics for my shop. Am I ordering direct from Massive? Okay, so then what are my terms? Right. So Dennis immediately says no, because the answer is you're probably not selling enough Massive. Massive makes sense when you're ordering 20 publishers at onesie, twosies, threesies.
Right.
Right. Yep.
And it's in a shipping. So now there's going to be, so first of all, the sort of like, you've got Distillery, you got Vault, you have Massive. So let me be clear in case everybody online loves to be outrageous. Okay. So let me be clear. These are great companies. I did not say good companies. I said great. Okay. This is great content. These are great companies. They put out great books. Okay. This is not me anyway criticizing the content or the people that make it. These are talented creators. These are great staffs. These are visionary entrepreneurs. These are my people. Okay. Love it. Okay. But what's going to happen is everybody individually is going to say, my account isn't big enough for stores to order from me direct. I also went to comic book publishing not to be somebody that packs and ships things. I don't want to go to the post office. I don't want to call UPS. I don't have enough bubble wrap. I don't want to hire staff, blah, 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 right? So somebody's going to pop up and they're going to say, I'll be the third-party distributor, okay? And I'll take everybody on and I'll ship them, okay? And when that happens, that's insanity, because you have to go rent a warehouse, you have to hire a staff, now you have to train staff to pull and pack. Now, here's the thing nobody's thought of. Everybody places their order for a massive distillery, I don't know, I think Oni has a distributor, but these major companies that are still at Diamond. You order this book from Dennis Barger Distribution, okay? Now Dennis has to go chase you to get paid. What about collections, right? So are you processing all of it using credit card on your website? I mean, this is a lot of logistics to be able to spring up overnight. Yeah.
Can I add one more wrinkle to that?
And by the way, you need to ship the books and not damaged.
There you go.
Which I never had a problem when I bought an exclusive from Boom or anything from Boom. You guys have incredible shipping department.
Thank you.
But I'll add one more wrinkle to that. Diamond has minimum order requirements to maintain even your indie comic discount level. Now you take Marvel and DC sub distribution out of that mix, and now you have zero Image. Are you going to be able to afford? Is Diamond going to be able to afford giving you 45% off of Distillery, 45% off of Oni, if you're only ordering onesies, twosies, threesies?
Right.
Probably not.
The other thing, and I can't remember, but I believe they used the word surprise in that letter. They were very surprised. Are any publishers in your mind surprised?
Look, I'm crazy. First of all, I'm crazy. So second of all, I am always thinking about the third, fourth, fifth move on the chessboard, not the next move, not the move after that. So I'm always thinking about that, and I'm always shocked that people aren't. Yep. So are people surprised? Yeah. Should they be? In my opinion, no. I don't know. Like, to me, all this was clear like 2.5 years ago.
I think a lot of people in this industry have different bricks in each hand that are holding them back. They got to make this company corporate master happy. They got to make this thing happen. And it's impossible to tread water while you're carrying two bricks.
Well, I want to get down to our final questions, because we're about 2 hours with Ross, and I don't want to keep them all night.
I want to get Emmett in here too.
Yeah, I want to talk about one. This is chapter 11. This is with the idea that they're going to try and continue on. Do any of you guys see Diamond Distributors being a part of comic books going forward?
Absolutely. 100%. Not even doubt on my end.
I'm going to say the opposite of that, and I'll tell you why. Because even when they come out of chapter 11, and I believe they will come out of chapter 11, they have so many assets to sell off. Alliance, UK.
Well, they already got the stocking horse bid on Alliance.
I know.
So.
Jesse, can I just finish off?
Yeah.
Can I finish?
When they come out of chapter 11, and they will come out of chapter 11, they will be a whole Diamond coming out. They are going to have to rebuild all of those relationships that are now walking away from them. They are not going to be the same Diamond distributor that existed a month ago. And yeah, they may decide to keep doing comics, but honestly, I think they probably will decide we can't make any money off of what's left of comics that are being given to us to distribute. I honestly believe that. It goes back to that argument of 100% in 2019. DC leaves, they're operating at 70. Marvel leaves, they're operating at 30% of the revenue. Now, Image is definitely gone. All these other people are definitely looking for other dance partners right now. Are they going to be able to operate any semblance of what Diamond was at 20 or less % of the revenue that they could get from those?
But they don't have to. They have to restart at the very bottom and work their way up. So even if it's 3 to 5%, it depends on what that 3 to 5% of publishers they're
when they come out. Do you think Penguin Random House is going to give them the same terms that they had before?
But hang on. Let me just say, okay, I'm going to bridge the gap between the two of you. Okay, so the question is where is Steve Geppe's mind with, is he in it to die with his boots on, which he's OG hardcore comic book guy.
Yes, he is.
Right? Like one of my favorite stories in the business, Paul Levitz, who ran DC Comics for 35 years, told me the story that in 1970, he was buying a Spirit strip from Steve Geppe, and Steve Geppe was so not known that he had a table outside the convention. He couldn't get a table in the convention. Okay. And what happened was Paul found this Spirit Sunday section and wrote a check to Steve Geppe. And Steve Geppe took the check from Paul Levitz and said, "Who the hell are you? Why should I take a check from you?" Okay. So you just got to love these two titans, Godzilla and King Kong, that shaped the entire business. At that juncture, were a couple of teenagers. Nobody knew who the hell they were. Okay. The point is, Steve, is he in it till it die with his boots on? Probably. Okay. But Steve's also no dummy. There's a certain point at which he would look at it and be like, maybe we're making a 2% markup, or maybe this is such a small size of business, this isn't fun anymore. Right. And I could also see him go, hey, this was a lot of fun. I had a good ride. There's no way when he signed the ink on that monopoly agreement in 96 that he didn't go, this is the golden age. I'm going to make the most of it that I possibly can, but I would be a fool to think that this will last forever. So Steve is probably the guy that he would put his arm around you and be like, this was awesome. I'm so thankful. I had so much fun. And there is an amalgamation of materials that could merit a distributor, right? And we can talk about what's in that box, okay? Yeah. Role-playing games, trading card games, collectibles.
The only reason all that stuff is an alliance is because it was easier. He could easily restart those deals with the alliance, producers, and sell that stuff through Diamond after he sells off alliance.
Right. So as you scale down, right? So Chuck Parker's in the press release. It's like, when you got to go to Chuck Parker and go, hey, Chuck, when we were in Monopoly, I could pay you X amount of money. Unfortunately, because we're down to this size, we'll take Dennis's number. We're at, 80% less than what we were. You got to take a paycheck cut. Chuck Parker might be like, I've been working for you for 30, 35 years. Sure, no problem. I'm 70 and I don't mind working part-time. Or he could say, hey, it's been a great run. Talk to you later. And then you sit there as a CEO and you look at do I have the staff to execute? It doesn't make everything hard. Do I have to train everybody all over again? I own the Orioles. Do I care anymore? I don't know. If I was forced with a gun to my head that I had to bet, my bet is he's in it till they drag him out.
Yep.
Okay. But the question is there's a business. How big is it? And how, will you want to just give up? And if he wants to give up,
that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying is and how old Steve now? 70 something?
Yeah.
75, 76, somewhere around there.
Yeah. Do you want your last years trying to build back what was a giant empire?
Well, I think that's a conversation he has with Josh, and Josh has to say, this is what visions I have.
We know Josh doesn't want to run Diamond as it is. Josh wants to do some other stuff.
Well, he wants to do some other projects that would still be under the Diamond umbrella. So
right. Because I think Josh would have taken over long ago if that was Josh's plan.
For sure. Part of Berserker contributed to me being willing to sell Boom. right? Because I sat there and I went, am I going to do Berserker again? Right? Like how much work, how hard is that to do again?
Sure.
Right? And something is killing the children. It's like, how many of those roll along? I did it for 19 years. I know how rare they are.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, well, am I going to work another 19 years to get another something is killing the children Berserker? Or am I going to take a check now and thank everybody and go home?
Yeah.
So, you know.
No, and I absolutely agree with that. You know, let me ask something to you. How long has Chuck Parker been the president of Diamond?
Forever.
Okay.
I would say at least since the monopoly. I don't. Probably not before, but I don't know.
I find it odd that the last week is the most I've heard Chuck Parker's name in
That's
my 20
odd.
years of dealing with Diamond.
No, it's not odd. Because Chuck wanted to keep you away from him, and I don't mean that. No, I don't mean you.
Yeah,
I mean,
People.
I think I shook his hand.
Yeah,
right?
I think I was introduced to him
19 years.
once.
19 years, and I shook his hand.
I think I was introduced to him once and never saw him again in my life.
But it's an ops position. Like he's not. His job is to make sure that the warehouse is running as efficiently as possible, and it honestly has nothing to do with the publishers and has nothing to do with the retailers. Yeah. His job was: do the trucks all need to be upgraded? That's his job.
I have one final question for you on my end. How does San Diego Comic-Con look for you? Is it just personal, or is there some business connected to it?
I have a 10-year-old who has gone insane for Doctor Who, and at San Diego, I took her with my exhibitor pass before the show opened when it was empty and took her picture inside the TARDIS on the show floor, and there was nobody at the Doctor Who booth. Yeah. And that's what San Diego is to me now. That's the only thing that matters.
Same for me. When I got to take my kids there last year, not last year, the year before, it was a pilgrimage that my daughter wanted to make, and to let her go through the San Diego experience. She's a huge fan of Shinzo Ito, and she waited every morning at 6 a.m. to try to get tickets to meet him.
Oh, wow.
And was denied every morning.
Oh, heartbreak.
And I said, sweetie, that's San Diego.
Yep. You've had the real experience.
You've had the experience. Can I have my one last question, and it's going to be the doozy.
Woo!
What's your take on the whole Neil Gaiman situation? And what does that mean for the comic industry going forward, and Neil as one of the most brilliant writers to exist in our comic book industry?
Interesting. I don't think it has. I think we're sophisticated enough to separate an author from an industry. And so I don't think it matters to the industry. And Neil doesn't write a lot of comics and hasn't for a long time. Neil's really a novelist. So what does it mean for the book business? There's going to be a hell of a lot of people who have no idea that are going to keep buying Neil Gaiman books.
Yep.
What's the publisher going to do? I have no idea. I don't understand what this means relative to cancel culture, where we are as a culture. He has the wrong fan base to engage in such behavior. So he's going to alienate and lose fans. What does that mean at the end of the day? I definitely know that 5 years from now, I'm going to be having a beer with somebody and they're going to be like, I'm a huge Neil Gaiman fan. What? You know, it's like, how does word get out to these people? Yeah. You know, it's very hard. But I think that, so what, you know, sort of the Neil situation is very dark and it's very horrific. And I am unsurprised sounds insensitive. What I mean is that what's clear from the background in the article, so I don't know what the truth is, I just read what was written, was he comes from an abusive background. And comic book people generally are not very well socially adjusted, and many of us come from abusive backgrounds. And I know that just from the creators I know, how much drinking happens at shows, how much interaction from professional to fan, how much hero worship happens. And, I think that many comic book creators are outcasts, and we're not socially adept growing up, and they don't know good boundaries. And so to me, it's surprising that there's as few of these stories as there are.
Interesting take.
What I would say.
Very interesting take. I had an interesting take on this while it was happening in real time. Luigi Mangione, the guy who did that thing in New York. Yep.
Wow. Now you have my attention.
That guy might as well be Tom Jones with the amount of wet panties being thrown at him on a daily basis. And Neil Gaiman didn't murder anyone on video. The Menendez brothers still have hundreds of letters a day going to them from women who just love them. That Scott Peterson guy who had the wife on Christmas Day disappear.
Yeah, but those are also other hurt women, most likely, hurt men.
Right. But what I'm saying is,
hurt people gravitate towards other hurt people.
No, but also, if Neil Gaiman is the way you described it, tortured soul, creative person, this is not going to stop the fan base that is just as hurt as he is going forward. I think he takes a hiatus for a couple of years. Maybe he maybe he Kickstarters.
Right.
And really shows the industry, hey, you guys have blacklisted me. I'm going to go direct to my fans, and we'll see how many Neil Gaiman fans are actually out there.
Yep. You guys, everybody in the chat, let's give Ross a round of applause for joining us tonight. He has been absolutely amazing. He's one of our favorite guests here on Beyond Wednesdays, and it won't be very long till we have him back. So thank you again, Ross, for joining us. We appreciate
I love this
man.
band of pirates. These are some of my favorite outlaws. You guys are completely amazing. All three of you have distinct perspectives that come hard-won from tremendous experience, and are some of the opinions that I appreciate and trust in the business and respect. So thank you.
And while you're still here, before you go, let's wish Jesse a happy
anniversary
of selling comic books.
Yeah.
Yes,
Brian, I don't know if you have the pictures. I'll be real quick. So January 25th is my 43rd year selling my very first comic.
Respect.
And it was at the Friendly Neighborhood Comic Book Store, January 25th, 1982. That's me actually on the left there selling my very first comic book, which was an Avengers comic book. But I don't remember what it is. But the funny thing that you look at that cash register. The cash register actually weighed more than me. That is crazy. So my very first comic, I've been selling comics for 43 years. Come this Thursday, that's me at my very first San Diego Comic-Con, 1983. I haven't missed one since. As you can see, I was pimping out Star Wars, Wolverine #1, and wearing Daisy Duke shorts on that one.
Those are 80s tennis shorts, my friend. Daisy Dukes. Dukes are jean cutoffs.
That was our PE uniform.
That's a 1983 preppy white. I'm surprised they're not Oxford tennis shorts.
Yeah, exactly. That's me answering the phone in the back room. We didn't have actually comic book boxes back in the day, so we put the comics sideways on the wall. And probably
how old are you in that picture?
That picture, the above one, I'm 12. The one below, I'm 13.
Wow.
13 years old. Yes. And
what's your buddy's name there? What's your buddy's name?
His name is Todd Nutt, believe it or not. He survived 2 days. And he's like, no. He dropped a whole bunch of comics. The owner saw it, and they're like, that's it. You're out. You never drop a comic book in this store. This is my last day in 1987 working at the store. I was offered the poster behind me as a
yes,
going away thing, and I said no, because why would I want a poster that said the wrong name on it?
Yes, Revenge of the
Revenge
Jedi.
of the Jedi poster. And the last thing, which has been something very, very cool, I got to watch the line in 1982 after working at the comic book store for a couple days. They had this gentleman. They said, you have to come in here and watch this line for this gentleman here. He walked up. He said, my name is Jack Kirby. You're watching the line. Make sure no one cuts. So that was my introduction into the comic book world. And
that was at San Diego?
No, that was at the comic book store. That was at Friendly Neighborhood Comic Book Store. So he had a little table. There was about 100 people. And the great thing about Jack Kirby was you would walk up, you'd hand him, the person would hand the book, and he would actually go to a panel inside that book, tell the story about that panel, and sign it for them. Yep. So this has been a great 43 years. I can't wait for the next 43 years, of course, and having everybody that became part of my family, even beyond the business part of it. Ross, Dennis, Bryan, part of my family, have always been there. This is a great ride, and we're going to continue. But I just wanted to talk about for about 2 minutes, and who would have known that this little surf punk skater, whose very first comic, Avengers 129, this is my very first comic I got. And then my very first comic I ever worked for was the first Hawkeye. So that's how I became a Hawkeye fan. Worked 5 hours for that book to get that book. So just excited, and to be live streaming and to continue to have pivoted throughout this industry every single time, and to try to, Ross said being 5 moves ahead, being one of the first live streamers for Facebook in 2016, doing live stream shows. Me and Sean Hudaku being the very first 2 guys to do it. I never thought I'd spend 80 grand on an exclusive with Boom with the Power Rangers 11-piece set. To really doing stuff that really marked our brand as someone that was always going to be innovative, looking forward, pivoting, and then at the end of the day, hanging out on the East Coast with these 3 fine gentlemen. So I want to thank you guys. So
before you go, do you have one story about John Bernthal coming into your shop and you selling him Punisher comics, or would be beyond? I mean,
that's
you
our
can't
boy George Chase.
Yeah,
you can't. Is that George? That's awesome.
That's George.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah. My biggest
top Jack, but
yeah. So I forgot what year it was. It was probably 1983 or 1984, 1985. I ran in and they had $65 in my pocket at the El Cortez, San Diego Comic Con, and I ran over George Perez, got my autograph from Frank Miller. And then I saw John Byrne across the way. So I go running over. My buddy's running with me. I got my Polaroid with me. And I go, Mr. Byrne, can I get your autograph? I'm 13, 14 years old. I don't know etiquette. He's talking to someone. I interrupt him. And so I walk up and I go, can I get my picture? And he looks at the guy, and the guy goes, yeah, go ahead. And so I put my arm around him to take this picture. And the person that he's talking to puts his hand on my shoulder. And I go, sir, I'm taking a picture with John Byrne. And I'm telling Stan Lee to get out of it.
Oh, that's great.
So when I show this picture, which I rarely show it, I might, because it's the only personal thing I have that I haven't shown. I have this picture, but his hand is right here. And when people say, is that John Byrne? I go, forget about that. So that finger right there, and every time I tell that story, I can feel him looking down at me saying, kid, you have no idea what you just did. But to walk into the El Cortez and only be 25 tables of people signing was an amazing, amazing thing. Even I got to ride in the limo with Elvira in 1983. It just, those cool stuff as a 12, 13-year-old
That's instant puberty right there.
Working in a comic book store. I think it's something back in the day. I'll leave you guys on this, on my journey. In 1982, 1983, even though I was 12 and 13 years old, I was selling to 12 and 13-year-olds. Now we sell to 40 and up in a retail store traditionally. We need to get back to that age where we are selling to the 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old. I think that is very, very important.
Amen, sir.
Bravo.
Well, let's hope that we get to celebrate 44 years next year around this time, and that we all are.
I just love I got a Bryan McClay amen before I got shuffled off the show. So it just makes it just like chef's.
I was in that him kick you off before I got that 40.
I still owe you a phone call, Ross. So be expecting one in the next couple of days, brother. And again, thank you so much for hanging out with us. And you always know we got a seat open for you here anytime.
Love you guys. Have a great night. Thank you.
All right, later, Ross.
Take care. Yep.
That's one of the good guys, you guys.
Yep.
That is, one of the best people to sit down and have a great conversation about comics.
He got to fill in 2 giant blank spots in what I think is the story of comics. And
he's such a great historian of comics.
Yeah,
it's unreal. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Emmett from HavenForHeroes. What's going on, brother?
What's going on, man?
Hey, sorry we had you on the back burner there, Emmett.
No worries, man. I was enjoying listening. I didn't have to be involved. I could just take it all in. It was awesome.
Yeah. I think the great thing about Ross and Philip, and just Boom in general, they have always, well, I don't know now, but when Ross was there at the helm, they were always a retail store friend.
Oh, 100%.
I'll be honest with you. If I had to go to that next tier, I would be kind of confused on who would be number 2.
Actually, probably the Sky Brown imprint and image for me. What they did at Boom for small shops like mine, I put it in the comments, but I just wanted, maybe some people didn't see it or hear it. Those unlockable variants, 1 per store. Yeah. They're like gold, to a small shop where I can't buy a 1 in 50. This is better than a 1 in 50.
Yeah.
It's 1 per store. There's 1,200 stores. 1 per 50, some of these big shops could get 10 of them.
Yeah.
I can't remember if it was Boom or another publisher that did it. They did these things where they would have like representatives in each city, and they would send those representatives like special variants to go drop off to comic book stores. It's called like the something partnership program or something. And
was that Aftershock, Jesse? With Lisa?
No, it wasn't Aftershock. It was
IDW.
I can picture the book, and their little logo in the right-hand corner is like a circle with a line down it.
Yes.
Yeah, not Hive, but something like that.
IDW?
Yeah, that worked for about 8 months.
Aftershock Ambassadors, is that what it was? Phantasm. By the way, big shout out to Phantasm Comics.
No, it was Aftershock. Yep. Yeah, I'm telling you, I think it was Aftershock.
Yeah, but there was another company who attempted to do it as well. So
okay.
Yeah. I thought Boom did it too.
Well,
or IDW.
And that was my idea. The Aftershock Ambassadors, by the way.
Sure.
I love the fact this is the awesome thing that I actually interrupted Dennis and got Dennis to say, "Let me finish." I am clipping that. That is the best.
I knew when I said it.
I knew when I
said it.
All right. Let's talk about the, it's been a week since this has happened. You are all 3 retailers. We talked about it with Ross, what he thought. The fallout after a week of this. What are your guys' thoughts?
Well, I didn't get my books, so I checked my tracking. I'm going to get them on Thursday, so the day after.
Just
from Diamond.
Sorry, from Diamond.
Yeah, from Diamond. I backed up. So I got an email from Lunar, but Lunar's emails go into my promotional for whatever reason instead of my regular inbox. I got to fix that. On the 13th, they said, "Hey, we're going to give you an extra day if you get your image books from Diamond. You get an extra day to order all the image books for next week that you're not going to get from Diamond." So I missed because I didn't see it till today.
I don't blame you for that.
I'm going to miss a week of image. They'll probably have leftovers because they're not shipping to Diamond. So I'll probably be able to get them off the backlist, but that's the kind of thing that's going on. Like, one day, I don't know. I mean, and in an email, it's kind of text me. I don't know, something, but put it out on the YouTube, get a hold of some experiencers or influencers or something. So I'm watching YouTube every day.
Yeah.
There's something very interesting because, you hear different stories from retailers. Like, it's either that everything's working fine for them. Oh, there's nothing but problems. I wish that this company would do this. And the other person says, oh, I hope this company doesn't do this. It's really all over the board, and it's very interesting to see who thinks what. And that's what I really love about the show is we're starting to get to the point where we have a lot of retailers, both brick and mortar shops and online specialty retailers, that are able to give us firsthand accounts. And for all of you that are out there watching, thank you for that. That is what we want for this show. We want to be able to make this the place that, you can express those feelings and talk about stuff and, see what other guys and what other, businessmen are saying and women are saying.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
let's go back to 2 weeks ago, because we had you come on, I think 2 weeks ago, to talk about the skippages through December.
Yeah.
And you were 2 weeks behind and 1 week behind. And
yeah, last week I got them on Wednesday, so I was able to put them out for Wednesday, but not this week. But you guys heard that Lunar changed their percentages for everybody, right? Yeah. So I know people that dropped all the way down to 50% on image, who had reached all the way up to 59. Now they were going back down to 50. They're doing it on a weekly basis. It's a yearly basis, but on a weekly amount. The weekly amount is smaller. I don't know. They changed it around for some reason. But DC.
Why do you think that is?
Profit. Now they can squeeze us.
We got you now, motherfuckers.
That's exactly what it is.
That's it.
Yeah. The DC, I'm at 35%. It's really not really worth it for me to even carry DC. But you're a comic book shop and you're carrying new books. They didn't. I mean, they did have everything was returnable for a while. I don't believe in that. I think it's a terrible business model.
It's a crutch.
It's a crutch. It's so you can show your shareholders that you're selling all these books. You're not selling these books.
Well, it's short term. I've always considered it a short term loan to a publisher. Right. And Ross was here, and that was a different business model with the returnability on Berserker.
It's hot.
But every time
that was different though.
Yeah, every time DC did it, I was like, "What? Are you short on money this week, DC? Do you need my?"
Yeah.
Okay.
You need to hold my money for a month.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it coming from corporate, where I came from before I got to the comic book world. If someone came to me and the first line they said, "Hey, we're at Ferragamo, and everything you buy, just keep in mind they're returnable," I'm then go, "Okay, let me go talk to Bruno." Because if you don't have the confidence in your product and you're already talking about returnability before we even negotiate a price, how many sizes in 10.5 or 10s on those shoes, that it's a very interesting thing. Until I got to the comic book world, I never understood. Obviously, in candy and food, stuff gets old. You got to be able to return it.
Right.
But I think in this case, it's about being smart. You got to budget. Returnability should not be part of your budgets. because that returnability means the money you spent on a chance could have gone to something that you could have actually sold.
100%.
Yep.
100%.
But let me ask you this. I haven't been in the store. My store is in transition from Arizona to Florida. Has any customer come to you and said, hey, Emmett, what's going on with Diamond?
No. Yeah. They don't care. They want their books.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear, like Ross said, they don't want to hear that it's Big Bad Diamond or anybody else. They don't want to hear about the damages or anything. They want to know when they're going to get their books from me, because that's who they do business with. They don't do business with Diamond. They do business with me. And, every once in a while, it comes out of your mouth just out of frustration is like, man, I don't know what to do. I can't get the books. I mean, I can't physically drive there or anything. So, sometimes we do blame it on Diamond, but I do get what Ross is saying. You really shouldn't. I mean,
it's difficult. I took it to heart what he said and what Jesse continues to preach. But like I said, I had a business model that Diamond failed me on the way I wanted to do business, so I stopped doing that business. Period.
Yeah, I get that. I'm nowhere. I don't do the numbers you were doing weekly. I don't do any. I do it in about a year.
Okay.
In new books, I keep it very close to the vest.
So let me, I know we're trying to let's not blame people, but Emmett, you definitely have my sensibility with calling out what you see.
Yeah.
I loved your video this week on the new bag and board companies that you're dealing with, because not only did you say BCW is my enemy and here's who I'm going with instead, you pump up as much as you tear down. And I enjoy that about you. With your history in comics, who do you blame for the situation that only you are in right now?
I think the thing that we love about Diamond, I think I said this last time I was on, is that they're like a family. They treat us like family, but they also treat all their employees like family. And some people just didn't do their job. And especially whoever was running, I know that the people who were filling your orders weren't Diamond employees. They leased that warehouse space
temp
and the
agencies.
workers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that didn't work. That didn't work because they could care less about us.
Well,
we weren't their customer.
I had given them a huge suggestion back 10, 11, 12, somewhere in there. I said, have you thought of an incentive program where when you get these packers and pickers in, pick 5 of them and just make them full-time employees? You can find work for them to do 5 days a week.
Yeah.
But that's going to give you a building model of having people who know what this is every week. They're going to know every level of this pack and pick system. And then you add another 5 to that the next month. And eventually you don't need to have temps.
Right.
Yeah.
And it just fell on deaf ears.
Yeah, but look what happened about 2015, 2016, when you would get a box and the box would have come with this little white sheet of paper that said, this box was filled by Phil.
Yeah.
Right? Yep. That lasted about 2 months.
Yep.
Right? Because Phil kept on effing up. And they had to fire Phil because they knew who it was. And then all of a sudden was Jill. And then all of a sudden was Steve.
We had a half-stuck Band-Aid in one of our boxes packed by so-and-so. We had a Sharpie marker left in the box that rolled around and Sharpied all the comic books on the top. That was packed by somebody else. And it was just like, I think they realized, much like, if you have a request line, you're going to get crazies calling into your radio station requesting crazy stuff. It's just easier to get rid of it at a certain point.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm not actually a boomer. I'm actually Gen X. I'm very early Gen X.
Yeah.
But I was raised by the silent generation. My mother was very old when she had me, right? So I kind of a little bit of a boomer. But I loved being able to call Diamond and talk to a human being.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to get a hold of Lunar or RPH, Penguin and Random House there. I hate not having a representative. Like,
well, that was one of the luxuries that got lost when DC left. They had to cut back on a lot of the customer service reps.
Yeah. Well, I didn't have my own customer, but you always could get one, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's been a long time since I had my own.
I remember there was, right after DC left, there was like, oh, if you have any problems, you can call from 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock, and you can call this number. And if they can't talk to you, leave a message and they'll call back when they have availability. And 2 days later, you'd get a call.
Well, yeah, there was certain people in the credit department, which I never needed credit. I always pay as I go. But they had made a couple of mistakes, like they didn't charge me. And I'm not watching my bank account to see, because I try to keep a year's worth of money. I could run the store and not sell anything for a year, right? That's what I like to have in the bank. Otherwise, my skin starts to itch. And so they hadn't charged me in like 6 weeks. And then all of a sudden they took it all at once. Or no, they called me up and they were like, hey, you didn't pay your bill. I'm like, I'm on automatic. You take it right out of my bank account. I don't know what the problem is. So they said, oh, you got to talk to the credit person. I won't say her name, but they sent me to her voicemail. I could not, she wouldn't talk to me.
Yeah.
It had to be done through
about
email.
Penguin or Lunar? Penguin or Lunar?
No, Diamond.
Diamond. Oh, okay. Yeah, I know who you're talking about at Diamond. Yeah.
Oh, I know. We all know who he's talking about.
We all know who that is at Diamond. Yeah.
And the thing is nobody in credit understands the way the comic book orders go out at Diamond. You try to explain to them, look, I got this box. It had a COD on it. I paid that, but the other 2 boxes were missing. I never got the credit for those other 2 boxes.
Right.
And you would try to explain, well, it says you had the invoice. Well, yeah, I understand it. The invoice arrived. And
the other crazy thing is
the box with the bill arrived. It was just the box with all the stuff that was on the invoices didn't arrive.
So for a long time now, I've been getting, like, I order a lot of back stock and off their liquidation list. And oh man,
yeah,
talk about profit margins, baby.
Yeah.
So, and I always have it, ship it when you're shipping my regular order, right? I don't want to pay for an extra shipping.
Right.
But they ship it anyway, separate. But they only charge me on my regular shipment.
Yeah.
I don't know why it works like that. They never explained it, but I never can find the invoice for it. So I don't even know what I actually ever paid.
Right. Yeah, you have to actually go online, look at your invoice online, print that to find out how you pay. If you do get an invoice, it will only give you the retail value for it. It won't give you the discount value.
Right. The manufacturer suggested retail price.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, especially if you started doing collectibles and everything, their liquidation list is crazy.
Yeah, I've been ordering about 1,000 books a week right now. They just came out with the sale on the 16th. I think we ordered like 1,200 books on that.
Marvel.
And but this is again the Marvel sale. This is product that
the companies don't want to ship back.
Right, they don't want to ship back, or retailers not paying their bill, or a company going out of business. Those are the 3 reasons. And then on those variants, people aren't, especially the ratio ones, they're not ordering enough to get rid of that product. Right. And so you're able to get these at great prices. But you gotta work it, folks. If you're
you gotta go to Diamond every day. Every day.
I was talking about
in those trenches.
Sometimes
you're
midnight.
You're on this treadmill where it almost seems like you're working for Diamond. You're doing, and I was just like,
do you remember the pallet sales? I always cried that I never could. I never.
What
could
are the
take
pallet
the
sales?
I wanted. Oh, they used to sell pallets of comics.
Yeah, pallets. Yeah. Yeah.
Like random? It was random what you got, or what?
1,200 books for like $3,000 plus 500 shipping. And it was more than 10 per book, and it was usually Marvel.
Yeah. Because
Yeah,
Marvel never wanted to take the shipment back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. We can talk about the negatives, obviously, but there are the
There's
positives.
a lot of positives.
Yeah, a lot of
Listen, their ordering system is way better.
It is. It
Lunar.
is.
Especially, I know you don't like Pullbox because originally it was Comixology, but they're out of business now. So it's worked really well for me. It's brought people in. And it's also, I've been able to put my customers onto it so they can look. They're going through the whole previews guide on their phone.
Right.
Like when they're at work, oh, I want that. Oh, I want that. Like it's upselling without me having to upsell. So Pullbox was great. Now I think who knows where that's going to be.
Yeah.
I know my customers can still use it, but if they order Marvel or Image or DC, it puts the order into me, but it doesn't order it automatically. I gotta then write it or print it out and go over to their website.
Do you subscribe to the Comic Shop Locator service?
Yes.
And is it still $6 a month or $6 is it $6 a month or $6 a week?
I have no idea.
No, it's like maybe
$6 a month, I think.
Yeah, 6. Yeah,
Okay.
Maybe.
Right. No, but I want to get to the point.
Shout out to Farside Comics is in the chat, another great retailer.
Yeah.
How's it going? So what do you think Comic Shop Locator could have been that it wasn't?
So it's.
I'll be back and grab a drink.
Do you know?
So
do you understand what I'm saying?
Well, they have kind of made it that if you use Overstreet access, so if you have a Diamond account, you get a free Overstreet access. They don't have the best inventory system. My buddy had showed me another one that's much better for selling online. And I know everybody says you have to sell online, but I hate it. I really hate it. It takes up so much time that I'm able not to put the time into the store when you have a physical store. But I am going to do the comics. I am going to do sales online, but I like the live auction better than having to take pictures, make 300 listings and then put it up. And then, the shipping is later. All the sales in a night, pack it and ship it the next day.
I
love that model. That model.
When I used Whatnot was an incredible system if you were willing to do the work to make it a good system. I hated all those sellers that were like Comic 1, Comic 2, Comic 3.
Yeah.
We would actually spell out what they were buying.
Well, here's the deal. We got 3 store owners on here that are 100% the business. Even though we have employees, we have friends that help us and all this stuff, but we're 100% invested into our company. I would kind of say right now, we don't have that in the comic book industry across the nation. A lot of stores, you might not see the owner for a whole week.
Yeah.
5 days. Right.
There was this thing about 10 or 12 years ago. It might have even been longer, 15 years ago, where guys with huge day jobs decided that they were going to open comic shops. And they would come in and they would hire a manager. Yeah. Oh, you were one of those guys?
Were you expecting him to say day jobs right there? Because I wasn't. I thought you were going somewhere else with that.
No, not you. Not
huge
you.
Day.
Yeah. Guys with huge day jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but these were guys that were making, 6 figures and had a nice house and they decided they wanted to be comic shop owners, and they thought they could have it as a turnkey business, which did you discover that it wasn't a turnkey business at a certain point?
I knew it wasn't. I knew a lot of comic book. I always was buying from comic shops, and I'm so interested in business that I was always like, a lot of comic shop guys don't like to talk business with their customers.
Right.
Like I'm just an open book. Here it is. Yeah. This is how it works. That way you never feel I've cheated you, because I've told you from the beginning, this is what I do. This is, this is how it works.
Do you think in hindsight, do you think that is not the way you can run a comic shop as a secondary?
I took on partners who would work. So I worked midnights. So I slept until 3, and then I came into the shop from 3 until it closed at 8. And then I would catch a nap before going in back to the midnight. So I was there every day until I retired.
Yeah.
Now I'm there 7 days. I'm there more than having 2 jobs.
Yeah, exactly. This is a reality check business. You go from eating at Sizzlers every day to after a week, you're already eating at McDonald's on the $1 menu or whatever it's $2 menu. It's that reality that you get into because you're so happy you're doing something you love that you forget there's the business part of it that literally punches you in the face and says, okay, now you got to work. When I was with Nordstrom, I had $100 million budgets.
Yeah.
Now it's and I'd spend money galore. Then when I opened up my store, it's like, what do you mean that's $200? Right? And so you have to adjust really fast when it's your own money and you're trying to learn turn rates and sell-throughs. At that time, it was only Diamond. Trying to work with Diamond was a challenge at the beginning because you don't know how to do anything. You don't know what to order. And so this industry will toughen you up really fast.
Yep.
But
or kill you.
And on the flip end, you are correct. So many people come in. There's that 3-year mark that we say you can do whatever you want, and you can break every record that you do. But let's see if you're still here in 3 years.
Yeah.
A lot of people in the chat talking about something interesting that kind of piqued my interest. One of the things that Diamond is known for is they have these amazing sales, or sometimes they'll do these ratio variant sales, or they call them diamond dumps. And the other 2 distributors, they don't do that. Lunar and Penguin Random House don't do that, and that's going to be gone. That's a big...
That's why I asked Ross that question about who put that list together and is that list based on sales? And I'll tell you why I asked that question. Because I'm a firm believer, and I have nothing to back this up on, that those numbers are backed up on how many Lunar buys from DC to distribute. And at the end of that cycle, and I can't remember if it was you or if it was Billy that was on here. At the end of that cycle of selling it to retail, all of a sudden, those back issues go over to Discount Comic Book Service. Yep. And I got to believe that's considered a sale just as well as selling to the retailers that they're selling to.
But here's the thing to that. That's because they're new.
The following program deals with a controversial subject.
What is this?
The theories expressed are not the only possible.
The top talents in the comic book business.
It wasn't me.
It was me.
But do you understand what I'm saying? You can
give them 3 or 4 years.
Model,
give them 3 or 4 years. They'll be drowning in back issues. Right. And then we'll start seeing back issue sales to us.
But I don't think they will. No, I would bet you money on. I'll bet you a diamond dollar bet on that one, Emmett.
Let me tell you what, storage costs a lot of fucking money.
Yep. You haven't seen how huge that warehouse is, Emmett. I've driven past it.
It still costs. There's still costs to it. Heating.
You're paying for that warehouse.
Sitting product will kill you at some point.
But here's the thing. They will sell that on Discount Comic Book Service as a 50-cent sale to their customers before they'll ever let Emmett buy it.
Maybe you're right there. They'll put it up for 50 cents onto their website, but I can buy from their website.
Yeah.
Well, no, I understand that.
I'll just have to start migrating and working that. But I don't think I'll ever be at 50% for DC ever again.
Yeah.
They just don't make enough books.
That was one of the beautiful things about the sales.
105 concurrent watchers right now, you guys that are watching us. 105 of you are watching us live right now. We only have 47 likes. If you guys get a chance, if you're watching on your phone, double tap your phone, hit the little thumbs up button. It's easy to find. If you're watching it on your computer, hit the thumbs up button. I'll give you guys a pass for watching on your TV. I don't know how to do it on your TV, but please hit that thumbs up button if you get a chance. It really helps us.
Yeah. So when you ordered from those Sizzler sales and Marvel variant sales and all of that, you got credit towards your discount rate based on the retail of what you bought from that.
Right.
And that's gone.
Yeah.
And I used to
Dynamite has good sales on there too, man.
Oh yeah. Nikki always had great sales. He had quarter sales on comics for a long time.
That's gone. It's $1 now, but
okay.
Still $1 is fantastic for like incentives.
Yeah,
I bought a whole lot of the Betty
night.
Page stuff. I bought a whole lot of the Betty Page stuff from him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, are you sure that this sale is the sale? And he's like, yes. I'm like, I want you guys to make money, and that's key. You can't have sitting.
Did he do it through Diamond or his site?
The what?
Did he do it through Diamond or his site?
No, you do it through Diamond.
So now Dynamite is only through Diamond, right? So and but the other two said that they're not taking anybody on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that a distributor is always leveraging
to be situations.
Yeah, the situations to say, no, we're not taking anybody. Don't even bother calling us. And that's Nikki's job to call them and say, well, what will it take to X, Y? And I'm not speaking for Nick. I'm just saying that's what his job is, to renegotiate and say, well, how would we get with you? How would we get with Penguin? So there's always a situation. At some point, do you think Penguin wants Lunar to get Dynamite? Do you think Lunar wants Penguin to get Dynamite? So I think Nick's job is to get in between them, to get them all to vote. Or if he's looking to get out,
somebody will pick up Dynamite for sure. But what about, like, I have a lot of indie centric people, and I sell a lot of the tiny imprints, and I'm not going to have, if Diamond goes out, I'm not going to have them. Like you guys had Spears on, and at Keen Spot's tiny. I mean, they're making some really good, like, I've been buying their books for a long time, but they are really starting to make, Spears' book has really elevated them a lot. But I mean, they've had some good recent books, and the political books that they've put out are, they're funny, and they sell to there's a certain group of people that buy those, and those always did really well for me. So,
yeah, I think the key here is three things. You got crowdfunding, you got conventions, you got your own webpage. And if you want to make it, you're just going to have to do it. It's not a willing to do it. You have to do it. You can't put yourself in a situation where one company can make you or break you. And that's when you hear this on the thing, I'm looking at these guys, I'm saying, yeah, but you got opportunities. You can create your own campaigns on eBay if you want. Yeah. You have these abilities. But again, like I said last week, I don't know where I said it, but I said writers, artists, inkers, colorists aren't trained to be businessmen. They're trained to create. And that's the problem our industry has. And so that's the challenge. Even these stores that are bitching about their sales, and what's today? The 21st. It's the 21st of January, folks.
I'm having a great year so far. I upped my numbers from last year. Last year I had you have a target. Every week you want to hit a target. So last year we did really well. So this year I said, well, we're going to up the target. We're not going to rest on our laurels and make the same amount. Now we want to make an extra every week, so that at the end of the week, we're this much ahead of that of last year. And we've made it every week so far. We've expanded into different items and stuff, but I mean, everybody says nobody's buying anything. That's bullshit. I got people, like when Pokemon came out on Friday, I had 11 people standing outside my store waiting for the doors to open.
Right. So what's the deal with the, I don't know if you guys know, what's the deal with the Costco Pokemon?
Mm-hmm. So the Costco Pokemon set. Oh, do you want to do it, Brian?
No, go ahead, Dennis. You probably know more about it anyways.
So the Costco Pokemon set is, I think, 15 packs or 10 packs of 151, which is a set from about 5 sets ago. It had the most amount of the extra premium cards in it.
Right.
The ones that
it's the original 151 Pokemon.
Right. And it's redos of all of those, plus super variants of every one of those.
Yeah.
And there are people who want to have the entire set.
Yeah.
All 300 cards that were available from that 151 set.
And we as retailers are getting another taste.
Oh,
Tiny
we are.
taste. Oh, I just got them.
Oh, nice. Congrats.
Yeah. I'll talk to you later
but the
about
thing
where
is,
I got it from.
they put this set back into print this is now the third time.
Third time, yeah.
Unheard of. It's so popular that every time I sell the individual packs from this set for $15 because I have to buy them on the secondary.
Yep.
And I can't keep them in stock.
No.
And then they have another set they just put out called Prismatic Evolutions.
Yes.
Which
so that's
you can get from straight from the manufacturer, which is what is it? CTV.
Well,
what do they call it?
Brian, but let me just go back and finish explaining what that was. That Costco made a special deal with them to get this super box set of, I think it's 10 packs. I can't remember what it's called. And you get 10 packs of these packs that I'm selling for $15 in it. And some Costco's were 2 per person. Others said, fuck it, we just want them all gone. People started fights. There's a viral video of a guy giving an elbow to another guy. People knocking people over, knocking over TVs to try to get back to the pallet. Costco botched this entire thing. And of course, they're given the best options because they're Costco.
Yeah, there was a couple of Costco's that the maximum you could buy was already in a cart.
Yeah, I saw that.
That was smart. But
it was also ridiculous that they had that many people and they were like letting people get that many of it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So you just grab whatever you wanted.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
And then this guy's stupid. He was going to walk away from his cart full of the stuff to get more. I'm like, no, you got to guard that because they'll take it right out of your cart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the resale for one of these boxes?
Double.
Roughly $200 in resale. But on eBay, if you don't have a card shop, you're kind of to eBay on this. It started at about 120. Those cost $60 a piece. It started at 120, dropped down to around 90. I think it was around 80 at one point. I think it's back up to around 90. Emmett, I don't know if you follow.
Is that the 150 or you're talking about the
151? The 151.
151, like 120.
Right.
So
but
Costco ones are not the 151. It's the Prismatic Evolution.
No, the Costco one is the 151.
Okay. People in the chat are saying that the Costco one are the Prismatic Evolution.
No, Prismatic Evolution is only at retail. It just dropped on the 17th.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
everywhere at the same time. My store as well as Walmart, Target.
Yep. So that is another set that's exactly like 151, except for it's all based on evolutions.
Yeah, which is always hot.
It's always hot.
Because there's always a Charizard and there's always
there's so Prismatic Evolution just dropped. Retail, well, first of all, suggestive retail price is $60, but since there's tons of competition,
50.
Normally it's about $50. Yeah, that's the Blooming Waters.
Yeah, that's the Blooming Waters.
That's the Costco exclusive box set, and I think a few other retailers are going to get that. Prismatic Evolution, however, so normally the SRP is $60 for what they call an ETB, Elite Trainer Box. But most retail stores sell it for $45 to $50 because there's so much competition.
Yep.
I saw retail stores that are supposed to be selling it at $60, usually sell it at $45 to $50, and they put it out for sale at $120, which was the market price.
I sold mine for $70 because I didn't think I'd ever get any more.
So this is the crazy part.
I got a little taste of a little more, which I had to pay more from Even like distributors are raising their price.
So here's the crazy thing about it, Jesse. If you would have bought it from the Pokemon Center website, these Prismatic Evolution boxes, those boxes are selling for like $300 to $600. They're selling double of what the regular ones are selling.
And it's really all it is just a different art, and I think there's like an extra freebie inside.
You get a special promo, and then all the art all the cards, I believe, are stamped with the CTE or the Pokemon Center logo, and
the Pokemon Center logo.
And I think you get better chances at.
They're seated a little bit better.
Yeah, it says here. Here's the place in this from Fluffy Fish.
And the problem is the same with everything else that you complain about, Brian. Everybody knows this, so everybody has trained bots to buy as much of this as possible.
Yep.
So the fans, when this stuff goes live, they get denied it constantly.
Yep. Yeah, fuck card manufacturers, man. They're garbage.
Well, but here's the thing. Unprecedentedly, Pokemon had put out a statement, I think 2 or 3 days before, that they recognize that this set has extreme and that they're producing more of it at the highest rate they've ever produced, which we'll find out,
I heard there's something to do with Korea, where Korea hadn't got theirs and ours is on the same print level, and Korea has to get theirs before we get any more. There is no Pokemon at our distributors. I have 5 different distributors for gaming stuff, and they have very little, if any.
But my son and I went out to dinner today after I had to drop my daughter off to catch her ride back to college. And we hit 3 stores. We hit a Target. We hit a little anime store that we go to. And we hit, I can't remember the third place. Everybody was cleared out. Like everybody.
Do you guys have Walgreens?
Yeah, we didn't go to any of those though.
Yeah. Once in a while, you check like the Walgreens.
But I mean, I bought it was a little pawn shop that also deals in cards, and they didn't have anything.
Right.
I bought $125 box of Scarlet and Violet, just base set, because that was the only thing we found at one of the little anime shop. And my son was like, "Dad, I think you made a wrong decision on that. I think these only go for 110." And I'm like, I don't care. It's $3 a pack. I just want to make sure I have extra packs for sale. He looks it up and goes, oh, no, actually, it's going up to about 140, 150 now. And it's a garbage set. Yeah. The best card in it's like a $25 card.
I only have 2 packs currently. I usually carry 7 packs constantly. I have 2 packs. I have Temporal Forces.
And Target had Surging Sparks on the shelf.
What? You didn't buy it?
I only bought 15 of the packs. I left the other 15 on the shelf for whoever went there. Because I just wanted to have Surging Sparks in my chute again.
Yeah.
And I sold out at $8 a pack.
Yeah.
What's funny about this conversation, even though Dollar Tree sold out of all their book, they screwed up. Can you pull up Dollar Tree comics on eBay? And I'm going to show you where they screwed up, because they could have had the same thing, not in this measure of dollars, happen if they didn't do this one thing that you're going to see they did on these poly bags. And it stymied the value.
It didn't have the Dollar Tree logo, right?
Nope. Pull one up. No.
That's their in-house comic. Yeah, that one right there.
Right there. Look what they put on that pack.
125.
Yep, 125 on the pack.
Is that on the comic?
No, it's on the poly bag.
Okay.
And they put a sticker on that makes it so hard to take off. But if they came out with these without that $1.25 sticker, this book would be off the hook.
Can you zoom in? What does it say for the price tag on that? I'm just curious.
They don't change the covers.
$3.99.
No, because you know you're paying extra for the foils now, but it still says $4.99 on the back of a foil comic, but you're paying $5.50 for it. So I can't charge $4.99 even though the book says $4.99 because I paid $5.50.
That book was originally a $2.99 book. What's it say on the barcode?
I don't think you can see it.
Yeah.
I'm just curious if it says $3.99 as well.
Yeah, so they could have the same impact. Maybe these books would be now $10, $12, $13, $14, $15 books. But by sticking that sticker, now maybe they did that on purpose. Maybe they did want to control the market and not allow it to happen. Because it's very tough when you have that tag on there to sell a book that says $1.25 on it.
Can you look at solds, Brian, so we can see if they're getting that $5.50 for them?
For sure. For show. Fading
but
pretty
this just
fast.
It goes to $4.50, $6.
That's crazy.
Yep.
I have some of these books in my dollar bins.
Oh, well, that's the thing is, first of all, you should have them on
Marketing.
your wall in a bag and a board for $5, 3 for $10.
Wow, $11 for that.
Oh, that's crazy for the Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, so you basically could go online, buy that Batman Scooby-Doo for $4.99, get the original, not in a poly bag, yet you're spending $11 on it.
So FISO says all the barcodes say $3.99.
So the next question is DC going to keep doing this? Are they going to get monthly books, you think?
I think this was a pilot. I don't think they're going to. It's kind of funny. I didn't see when I was there. I'm a bad example, but when I was there, someone was in front of me and they bought a Harley Quinn and they bought a Green Arrow. And I think that's what their goal was, is to have everybody
not somebody buy all of it.
Yeah, not like someone like me that says, "Oh, I'll take all 5 Harley Quinn. I'll take the 4 here. I'll take the 3 there." They don't want that type of selling. And I think what they saw with these sellouts were a lot of these sellouts only ended up being 3 tickets.
Right.
Yeah.
And that type of business structure, that's not how they like to sell stuff.
No.
Right.
And I remember when Dollar Tree
I went into ours asking for the rack.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dollar Tree used to have $1 Pokemon packs. And right when COVID hit, that ended because people were just coming in and buying the whole box.
Yeah.
And like Jesse said, I don't think they want that as their business model. So they just eliminated it. Or Pokemon was like, we don't want to make $3 pack or 3 card packs anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And Dollar Tree does have a return policy with their vendors, and it's very strict. So you rarely have to hope your stuff sells out there. It cannot sit. So that's a challenge for people selling to Dollar Tree. You figure it costs about 3 cents per poly bag to do it, because you got to get the machine, the comics slide in, boom. So that's a 3 cent cost, but you're paying someone to do it, then the cost of the comics. So it's a challenge.
But the thing is this has been the business model that I've been bitching for a long time. If they put that cardboard rack and $1.25 comics in every Dollar Tree, and I'm guessing there's probably 1,500 Dollar Trees, Jesse, am I wrong?
15,000.
Oh, 15,000. Holy shit.
They're everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, just think about that. What was it? Probably 100 comics per one of those racks?
Yeah, 125, I think, is what the rack is. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, just
$1 million books.
That's $1 million books. And if you got if they're printing 1 million books and they can sell it to Dollar Tree, and Dollar Tree can happily sell it at $1.25, why can't they do that once a month for retail?
Well, DC has been shipping us like overage for some books they want to pump. Like I got a pack of 25 of Action Comics.
Marvel does the same thing, though. I got a random box of Wolverine #2s.
Yeah, I actually, all their new launches, 1s and 2s, I've got an extra between 5 and 10 books, free to sell and make extra money on,
which is great. But we know why it is.
Right.
Because they have a certain threshold that they have to print anyway to get a certain printing price.
Ooh, yeah.
I'm falling asleep here.
And if the orders come in below that, just overprint it and ship it and get rid of it.
I am calling it a night, you guys. It's been a long day for me. You guys got anything you want to say before we call it a night?
The only thing I want to talk about is I talked to Bryan about this today. Is I'm at a point now, and this isn't bragging, this isn't being egotistical, that we're selling so many comics. Today, we shipped out a little over 1,300 comics. Now, keep in mind, Monday was a holiday, so we had that ship over. And my point is, for stores out there that if you hear them saying their business is down or not, it's not going well, tell them just to pivot to a platform that allows them to sell more comics. And if they just focus on more comics, they will be successful. My other part is I am tired of getting Kickstarter requests. And then the next thing from a retailer is the political views. I'm here for comic book therapy. I'm here to support you. If you want to put your political views on your personal page, I don't care. But if you want me to buy something from you, just sell me comics. That's all I'm here to do, is to buy comics from you. I'm trying to get away from everything. So you providing me some great comic book therapy, I think is very important. I want to wish all the comic book stores well. You can be successful if you pivot and you just focus on taking care of your fans. And everybody that's bragging about leaving TikTok to go to Blue Sky, don't forget you are leaving your customers over at TikTok or wherever, because they're still there.
Yeah.
And so by you leaving, you're leaving those customers dry. So that's all I want to say. Stop the excuses and sell more books.
I saw the exact same thing today, Jesse.
Yep.
I saw a guy with he's got 4.9K followers on Facebook. And he posted his Blue Sky address with 29 followers and said, I'm out of here. Follow me over there. And I'm like, bye. I'm here with the other 4,970 people that aren't over at Blue Sky.
Yeah.
Feel free to go away. I'm going to sell them comic books and it won't be yours.
Look at that guy that had 5,000 followers on Friday. He's down to 1,900 today.
Wow.
1,900. That's how many customers. And he has a Kickstarter going on right now.
Yep.
I've never owned TikTok because
I don't know how to TikTok. Yeah.
I was in the military and I just can't.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of psyop on there. There's a lot of people on there doing nefarious shit. So I don't deal. But I am on all the rest.
Yeah, that's fine.
But you're right. If you had built people up, you shouldn't leave them, right? Because you're abandoning them. And
yeah, you should have everything. If anything, you should go over to Blue Sky, build something there, keep feeding your Facebook, keep feeding your Instagram, keep feeding your Twitter, and start feeding your Blue Sky. It's 4 times the work.
Cash is not red or blue; it's green.
Yep.
There you go. All right, we gotta get out of here before
before Bryan dies.
Bryan will fall asleep.
before I call it a night, I do have some bad news to share with everybody. Today, I put down my baby girl. This is my Abbey dog, 15 years old. She was born in August of 2010. We put her down today around 4 p.m. She went very peacefully. And I was very lucky. I thought I was going to have to put her down on October 22nd. And we changed her medication up and got just over 3 extra months with her. So dogs are a special...
This is the one over at your mom and dad's house, right?
Yeah, yeah. Dogs are very special. And...
yes, they are.
They mean a lot to us for a reason. And, you know, we grew with them out of the muck and the dark caves. And, you know, they're part of our evolution. So I'm going to leave you guys this one little video and we're going to call it a night. So here we go. her when she was a puppy. Good little dog, man. Good little dog right there. And that being said, see you later, guys.
All right, have a good one.